This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Jumbo, and a very good morning to all of you people out there. Welcome to the Masai Mara in Kenya, where the temperature is a very nice 15 degrees Celsius, 55 degrees Fahrenheit. We are up with the sunrise. It is a beautiful morning, and we're not the only ones up. These two individuals, who knows where they're off to or what they've been up to. They're just at the base of the escarpment here. I heard hyena calling all of last night. All sorts of activities were going on last night. Who knows what. I am very excited to be here up in the Mara with the clans of hyena. Welcome. My name is Steve, and I'm joined by Big James on camera, and we are out in the Masai Mara for my first time since February, and we are very excited. We're going to go see if we can find some form of crossing today, do some birding, and just bumble around and get my toes a little bit wet in the Mara. So please feel free to send your questions, comments through #SafariLive. Let us know how you're doing. I've made it a few days late, but we're up and off we go. We're going to go down the hill, but let's first see, can we get another view of these hyena? No, as soon as you take your eye off them, folks, they just disappear. It is just the way it works. There was one youngster amongst the two there. They've disappeared, but what a beautiful sunrise coming over the large expanse of the openness, the vastness. My heart dropped when we came down the hill moments before. And what a way to start the day. Well, it seems like Juma is already busy, and they've already found you a cat. Let's go and see who Tristan has found for you this morning.
Well, Steve, we haven't found just one cat. We have found two. There you can see Hosana down on the ground, and above him is not Mfukazi, but his father Tingana, that has pilfered this carcass like we thought he would. So he's come in and obviously chased Mfukazi during the night and has taken it for himself. But that is definitely Tingana that's on top, and like I say, Hosana down below. And I thought when we saw Hosana on the ground, as close as it was, that Tingana was up in the tree. But anyway, it's a very good morning. My name is Tristan, as Steve mentioned, and on camera I've got Craig, aka the Batman, and I was thinking as we were driving in straight away from the road, I said to Craig that that's not Mfukazi up in the tree. This leopard was much bigger. And then when we saw Hosana right below the tree, it was an indication that it must have been a leopard that he knew. And so, well, there's only one other animal that could be up in that tree that he would be kind of confident enough in terms of males to be scounging around at the bottom and looking for little bits. And you can see there's no aggression whatsoever. Hosana is not growling, Tingana is not growling, but it's definitely Mfukazi has been sent packing, unfortunately, which is, well, par for the course. It was bound to happen, given where he was kind of sitting and where he is within this territory of Tingana's. He was dead center, and so Tingana was going to find him at some point, and so he eventually did. And you can see he's had a ridiculous amount of food and is very, very full. So, Marcy, you say the dynamic duo? Yes, the dynamic duo indeed. The two of them are another story. They seem to constantly be around each other, and especially if there's food involved. That's why I was so surprised that Hosana didn't get to the warthog that Tingana had. I suppose he had his own bushbuck, and that's maybe why each of them were able to kind of feed in peace for once. But they've definitely eaten a lot. Here comes a hyena that's running in. It's going to chase Hosana. Maybe. Let's see. Now, look at that. Hosana's just baring his teeth, and that's how he'll tell the hyena just to go away, and the hyena's going to come round. And Hosana doesn't really have anywhere to go because he can't go up this tree. Tingana won't be very happy with him going up there, so he's got to kind of stand his ground a bit and just growl. Where that hyena's just gone now is where Hosana was feeding. He's just now finishing up some bones, and so that hyena's just going to clean up what Hosana left behind. Now, isn't it ridiculous that we have a hyena and a leopard and then another leopard right above it? It's just quite something that there's this many kind of predators in one place. Now, look at that. Painted wolf, yes, Hosana is acting a little bit like a hyena, sitting at the bottom of the tree hoping. Shame he's getting upset with the hyena, and hyena doesn't really care too much, but look at how close they are. They're almost kind of nose to nose at the moment and playing this little game of who can see who from behind the marula tree. Look at that. That's ridiculous. Now, let's see. I think this hyena is not going to get too much closer, but we can take this onto a platform for everybody and widen our audience, if you would like, Emma. Well, good morning. As you can see, we've got an incredible scene that's unfolding. Side by side is a young male leopard and a hyena that are, well, just feeding. Well, the hyena's feeding, and the leopard itself is really trying to just kind of defend itself and show off a few teeth and snarls to try and keep the hyena at bay. But they are literally half a meter apart. Look at that. That leopard is saying, "You're too close, back off." So it's Hosanna that's underneath the tree at the moment. He's really not happy that this hyena is as close as it is, and that's why he's snarling. The hyena has just come in because it's coming for scraps that have been dropped for a tree, because not only is it this leopard and this hyena, but right above this leopard is another male leopard in the form of Tingana, which is Hosanna's dad. And so this leopard has come in and actually stolen this from a third male that was here last night. And so it's a complicated story, this carcass, but it's amazing. As bits are dropping, so the hyena is running in, and then Hosanna is having to kind of snarl and try and keep that hyena at bay. And the reason why is because he actually can't go up the tree. Even if that hyena had to run at him, he wouldn't be allowed up there. Tingana certainly won't allow Hosanna to come close. There's a little piece that's just dropped in front of Hosanna, and you can see, look, he's now turning and growling at that hyena. Now, with these two predators, you often think that there would be a lot of danger for Hosanna, and that the hyena itself also might be in danger, but actually they're both kind of mutually respectful in terms of knowing that they can both get hurt. And so what they're trying to do is just find little bits of food and try and kind of eat that without the other one really coming too close. And the problem with that, though, is hyenas generally will try and get to the scraps more, and they'll be braver and will take more of a beating than what a leopard will. A leopard often will shy away from confrontation with hyena because they obviously don't want to get themselves hurt in any way whatsoever. Now, in all of this, I've forgotten to say who I am. My name is Tristan, and on camera I've got Craig this morning, and hopefully you will enjoy being with us. It really is an amazing scene, because it's not every day that you get a leopard with another leopard, and then to have a hyena come in and kind of interact with the two is really quite something. Now, Gillian, you say go get him. Yes, well, Hosanna is definitely not backing down. He's doing all that he can to be as brave as possible. He's very lucky because the hyena that he's dealing with is a young hyena and not a fully grown, big, adult, old female that would give him a little bit of a harder time and would probably be a lot more brazen in its approach towards Hosanna. But both of these individuals, being fairly young, are somewhat kind of looking after one another. Like you can see now, Hosanna's just got a piece that's just dropped from Tingana, so he's going to eat that quickly, and he was just growling at the hyena to say, "Don't come near me, this is my piece." And so at the moment we've got a bit of a Mexican standoff, and Hosanna's won the first little prize, and I wonder if maybe another prize will come down. And look at that, you can actually hear him snarling at times. This is amazing. Very, very cool. Now, I was saying just now that we had a different male leopard here last night, and so I don't know where he's gone, but we thought that he would have been chased away because it was right in the center of Tingana's territory. We didn't think that that male would be allowed to stay here. Hosanna, being the son for Tingana and somehow just charming him, has been allowed, but with the other male, he would have been very nervous of a leopard of Tingana's size and probably ran away very quickly. So I'd imagine he's put some distance between here and where he is now to just try and get away. Now, Debbie, you say this is amazing. Well, look at this. This is so cool. You've got a hyena and a leopard side by side. Hyena's still sniffing about, trying to find little scraps in the grass that potentially have been missed by Hosanna, but I doubt there's too much that gets missed by Hosanna. We know that he is very good at being able to find food, and so I'm sure that most of it's already been cleaned up, but look at that. Katrina, yes, mutual respect until such time as more reinforcements arrive in the hyena corner, which I would imagine it would be fairly soon. If there's a lot more noise that goes on, and if the hyena starts to cackle a little bit, then you'll find the rest should start arriving. And I'm quite surprised that it's only just this one hyena, because last night when I left here, there was 5 of them that were sitting here waiting for this carcass to fall, and I'm surprised that it's only just the one that still remains. Maybe the rest are somewhere close by and are just sitting and actually kind of resting, and they'll come in later. But if there's more hyenas that come, Hosanna is going to have to make a quick escape and find somewhere else to go. Like I say, he won't be allowed to go up into the tree itself, because Tingana being up there has got a carcass, and he's tolerant of Hosanna being close by, but he won't allow Hosanna to be up in the tree with the food. Unfortunately, that will be a step too far. He wants to keep the food to himself, and so he will be very aggressive towards Hosanna if he goes up into the tree. And you can actually see there's a bit of meat that's tantalizingly dangling from one of the branches, and that's probably being watched by both hyena and leopard in the hope that it will fall down at some point. But this is just ridiculous. Absolutely amazing to see this interaction. We are so fortunate with the leopards that we see. So, and a pack of hyenas could potentially take down a leopard. It's possible, but highly unlikely that a leopard would allow hyenas to get that close. I mean, there's obviously been cases of leopards being killed by hyenas, and particularly cubs and young leopards, but when they get to the size of Hosanna or Tingana, generally they'll get out of their way. As soon as they see a lot of hyenas coming, they'll try and run towards the tree, and the only reason a hyena would attack a leopard is over food. And if there's no food around, then generally they don't worry too much about it. They'll just kind of assert themselves briefly, slightly chase them. Listen. A little bit of growling that's happening. I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a little deep growl that's coming from Hosanna every now and then. Now let's see, this hyena sniffing its way closer back towards Hosanna once again. But basically, as I was saying, just to wrap up, hyenas know that a leopard can be dangerous to them. There's also no reason to really attack a leopard for nothing other than food, really. And so if there's food around, then you'll find hyenas will come in and can be quite brazen. But very seldom do you see hyenas attacking leopards for no other reason. They generally will try and intimidate a leopard, and once a leopard runs off and goes up into a tree, then they leave them alone. The other thing with this combination that we got here is, like I said, they both are young animals, and so both of them are maybe being a bit kind of wary of one another. Hosanna's definitely at least stood up to this hyena and probably realizes that this is also a young hyena, that it doesn't have to worry as much. If it was a big adult female, I'm pretty sure Hosanna's reaction would be slightly different. But you can hear he's crunching down on something. The hyena's getting ever closer. Look at that. You say Hosanna is so handsome. He is a beautiful leopard, isn't he? He's one of those picture-perfect individuals, and he's still quite young, so he doesn't have any scrapes or scratches. Oh, that almost hit him in the head. No, he's just going to use his paw and grab it and pull it closer to him, but he almost got hit in the head by a piece of meat or bone that just dropped to the ground from Tingana above, and now you can see he's being very, very, very defensive of his meal. Well done, Hosanna. He's obviously dealt with hyenas enough this week. He had a bushback kill that was stolen by them a few days ago, and then he got it back, and then it was stolen again by them. So he's learning that he needs to sometimes be a bit brave, and if there's only one hyena like this, probably bravery is a good thing. As soon as more come, though, he'll have to be very careful and watch himself, because if he pulls that and there's 3 or 4 around, he'll get himself into a little bit of trouble. But absolutely astounding to see. Now he's looking up almost to Dad as if to say, throw me another one. I'm ready for another one. Dad is still kind of munching away and absolutely devouring that carcass. How he's fitting more inside his belly, I have no idea. His tummy is as round as you could ever imagine. Big round tummy, and you can see his perfect little smiley face, which is how we often identify Tingana. Is just above the impala's head is a smiley face that is there. Here you can see it. So if you ever wonder about Tingana and you're not sure, that left shoulder has got this little 2 dots and a little smiley face on it, and that helps to be able to identify him if you can't see his face. Now, Philip, you say so close and so rare. Well, yes, I mean, we are incredibly close, not only to the leopards, but the proximity of the animals to one another is very, very uncommon. And so you don't often see hyenas and leopard allowing each other as close as what they are right now. And you can see that's a mere meter apart at the moment. It really is quite something. And they sometimes don't look at each other and they play this kind of ignoring you game, but they definitely are very aware of one another's presence. And I wonder if Hosana, he's kind of looking at the hyena now as if to say, what have you found that I didn't? And the two of them are just kind of in this stalemate. This is very cool. It's not every day that we get to see this kind of behavior. So Courtney, yes, the Tingana-Hosana relationship really is intriguing, and we've been so fortunate over the past few months to have followed the progress of these guys and to see how this relationship has developed from Hosana being a little cub and, you know, Tingana being around kind of protecting the area and allowing Hosana to grow up, to now Hosana being kind of independent and doing his thing, and the two of them still allowing one another to be around and kind of often being seen together at carcasses and even away from that at water points is really quite special. We've been so fortunate to watch it, and it's all because at this stage Hosana, as much as he's grown and he's becoming a beautiful big boy, he's still small in comparison to Tingana. He really doesn't have that same bulk, and so Tingana, I don't think, sees him as a threat yet, and whether or not that's going to affect Tingana in the long run and be a bad decision by not chasing away his son, where remains to be seen. I think that at this stage everybody's kind of happy with the relationship because, well, Hosana's not mating, he's not taking any females away from Tingana, but yet he's around and providing food. Look at this. Hosana, do you not like the hyena around you, buddy? He's such a funny cat. He often just kind of looks with these daggers in his eyes at this hyena and says, oh, what are you doing here? Get away. This is my carcass. There we go. So now he's quite happy. The hyena's gone a little bit further away, and now he's posing as beautifully as you could ever imagine. Oh, look at that. Right, well, this has been just the most epic scene. We're being spoiled once again by our leopard family, so it is very cool. Anyway, this is all that we are going to be doing for the morning so far. If anything else happens, we certainly will go back live again, but I hope that you enjoyed this little slice of Africa and this beautiful sighting of these two leopards and this hyena. It's been an absolute pleasure, so from myself and Craig, we hope to see you all again soon. Still just the most epic thing to have these guys like this. Is amazing, and it just goes to show that a lot of what we kind of think or read in books is not necessarily right. If you read about hyena-leopard interactions, you would read that this isn't the case and that neither of these two would be very tolerant of one another. But as you can see here, when there's nothing to really fight about in the form of a little bit of food, they actually can be quite accommodating towards one another, particularly in young animals. You see it a lot with young hyena, young leopards. They tend to have these kind of cat and mouse games almost, where they go around each other and in close proximity. It does happen from time to time. I think somebody like Tingana wouldn't have allowed this hyena nearly as close as what Hosana is at the moment, but there he's growling again. Right, now we're going to sit here and just try and see if we can find any sign of Umfukazi. Maybe he's also milling about somewhere. And so while we do that, let's send you back across, well, not back across, for the first time actually, to Sydney this morning, who's out on a walk, so he can say good morning. Now, it seems as though we've got a little bit of an issue with bushwalk that we'll hopefully sort out and the tech gremlins will be fixed. But we are still sitting here. I'm just kind of scanning around at the moment, just checking any other trees or termite mounds that are close by in case that there is a sign of Umfukazi, just kind of watching from a distance. But I don't see anything. I I highly doubt that he would be very close. I think he would have seen Tingana coming and know that he's been found out and would try and move out of this area as quick as possible. You know, obviously Hosanna, on the other hand, doesn't really care too much. I mean, he's seen Dad so many times and been around food with Dad so many times. That's why he's much closer to the kill than what we saw last night. When we left last night, Hosanna was quite a long way. It was over 100 meters from where the kill was and being very cautious, whereas now you can see he's just kind of lying right underneath, and there's no growling or hissing at each other in terms of the leopards. Everybody's quite fine. Now look at that, isn't that amazing? We've got a leopard and hyena lying side by side and another leopard above. It's ridiculous, and everybody is just kind of doing their own thing, which is absolutely amazing. Very, very cool. Tingana, you surely cannot eat anymore. His belly is as wide as I think he is tall at the moment. He really has pushed down a lot, and that's obviously a bit of the warthog that he's been feeding off for most of the week, and now he's come and found himself a free little impala, and there's no ways that a carcass can be on Juma without Tingana kind of figuring it out if he doesn't have one of his own. And so the thief that he is, or I don't know if it's clever or thievery, but either way he tends to sniff out a meal better than most, and well, he's managed to find himself a nice little impala carcass that he can eat. And it's actually amazing how much meat has been eaten off of this. If this was just one leopard on its own, I reckon this would have lasted probably 3 days at least, whereas now between 3 male leopards it's being devoured to the point where there's really not that much. And by the time Tingana finishes this morning, I would imagine that he'll have left very little, and that will actually be cleaned up by this afternoon, and this evening they'll probably all move off. Right, now Bushwalk seems to be fixed, sorted out and back with us, and so we're going to try again, send you across to Sydney so you can say hello.
A very, very good morning and welcome to the beginning of the guided walk. I am Sydney Mikosi, and I'm not traveling alone this morning. I am traveling with Sebastian as well as Herbert, who is my game scout this morning, and I hope we are going to give you the best experience ever. My plan this morning is quite very easy. I am going to investigate on Thandi and Kalamba. I'm still very worried about the disappearance of Kalamba. It has been a while now. So if I see some tracks, that will be good enough. I'm going to that area just to try and see if you can find them. For your questions and comments, you can follow us on Twitter, #SafariLive. You can also follow us on YouTube chat stream. I'm very happy with the kind of weather we are having here in South Africa this morning, as it's not windy at all. It's nice and cool. It's a good weather for trekking. A very good morning again. So we must have to now target the roads, as here by the roads is where, when the roads are not disturbed, we can easily pick up the updates and take it from. But now I am on Central. There is no sign of these two cats at the moment. I'm going to head deep in the Central towards the border between Juma Game Reserve and the neighboring properties, as the last tracks yesterday morning, I saw them heading towards there. Dory, I am so worried about them. I want to make sure that I know something about Kalamba today. And hopefully, before we finish, I'll be knowing. But I'm sure it will be a positive response. So now, let's go to the Masai Mara, where Steve is also out on a game drive this morning.
Yes, well, what a way to start the morning. If Tristan Dix could start like that every day, I think he would. 2 leopards on a kill, father and son. Well, we're fine with that. He can do all the work that side while we just bumble around the Masai Mara and find ourselves some beautiful Mara elephants, with the governor's balloon in the background. There is quite a picture. Quite a picture. Not sure if you'll be able to hear it, but there's another couple balloons going to be passing us in a moment, and we can hear their loud. Most of the elephants are normally quite relaxed to the balloons, but individual just on the far left of the group there is not so relaxed. You'll see her now as she comes into picture. Her tail's up, her head is a little bit uncertain. Very good signs of an animal that's not 100% happy with something, and those are signs you need to pay attention to if you are on a vehicle or on foot with elephants in the African bush. You can just see she's a bit agitated, but it's clearly from a sound coming from the sky. It's quite far off, but I don't think she quite likes the balloons. Good morning, Wisteria. Absolutely gorgeous elephants, these. And I just love how small they look in this landscape. It really is something to behold. I mean, I've been here, I was here in February, and it's just so amazing to be back. The greenness, the vastness is absolutely gorgeous. Dash, you want to know what I'm most excited to see out here? Well, I am really looking forward to seeing enormous clans of hyena dominating lions, because as you know, down in Djuma, well, the lions just do their thing and the hyena just skulk around after the bits, trying to steal from the leopards and the lions without too much success, unless the leopards drop them on the floor. But here, after the footage Scott and Jamie and Brent were able to produce not so long ago, I am really looking forward to enormous clans of hyena coming in and dominating. When I was here months ago with Archie, we were in the marsh, not far from where we are now, and we actually had, I can't go that way, sorry. I'm supposed to turn the other way, but due to the length of my earpiece in this vehicle, I can't, so I'm sorry about that, James. But we were not far away over there, and we had a clan of hyena coming in, about 8 or 9 of them, and they were going in for one lioness that was on a kill. I don't know if any of you remember, I think it was the Marsh Pride. And they were going after the lioness, and they came in, they were getting excited, and one lioness came out of the bushes, and they just all disappeared into the thickets. It was quite something. I was very disappointed, because I thought they were going to do something quite entertaining, but they didn't. But that is what I'm really looking forward to. I'm also looking forward to Dash getting a number of more bird species on my list. Last time I was here, I spent a lot of time doing the balloon narration. There's not as much time out in the actual bush, and I think I'm going to be spending a lot of time out here now, which is exciting. We're going to be seeing wonderful, wonderful things. And look at the size of the tusks on that female. I think that's a female. She's an incredible specimen. Is definitely a female. Okay, well, we're going to be moving off, going to check on one of the small crossings coming up on the left called Hippo Crossing, and in the meantime, let's go to my favorite little chief.
Well, Little Chief has now decided discretion is the better part of valor, because another hyena has arrived, and so that's him off and moving away, and not very happy about it. He's growling as he's going, but there you go, there's another one, and he's going to sit down there. And unfortunately, as we said, the more that arrive, the harder it's going to be for him to be brave and to actually growl and hiss. And now that there's 2, he's decided he's going to go and sit somewhere else. And it's quite amazing, actually. Just now, he was sitting under the tree, and he was actually kind of contact calling and almost begging like a cub does when it's hungry to Tingana. And Tingana didn't really kind of pay too much attention to it. He stopped and kind of looked down, but it was interesting just to see the behavior, that he was almost saying to Tingana, come on, please, can you let me have some more? I'm hungry down here. And it was just kind of an interesting display of behavior. You don't see it very often, where leopards kind of beg for food, particularly a young male leopard of Hosanna's age. So very, very cool to kind of watch this sort of social interactions between these two. Now, these 2 hyenas at the bottom here are just sort of going around one another, and you can see that there's a bit of submissive display from the one on the right-hand side. So the one on the right-hand side, ears are flattened far more than the one on the left, and you can see, look at it. See how it's posturing? It's kind of lifting its leg, and it's sort of trying to hunch its shoulders a little bit, whereas the one on the left-hand side, even though it's younger, is far more kind of confident in its approach as it walks towards that one. So definitely a higher ranking individual that is closer to us than the one on the backside, and you'll often see that kind of behavior with hyenas. Even if there's size difference and some are bigger than others, there will still be that dominance display that is taking place. So there will be members of the clan that are much higher ranking, whether it be male or female, and they'll sometimes then impose themselves or be like this, where they're very submissive as they approach. Now, the hyena that walked away seems as though it's got a little problem with its tummy, because there's a bit of diarrhea all over the back of its legs and its tail. You can see actually matted hyena dung that's all over it, which is quite interesting. So I wonder if what it's been feeding on, maybe it's been feeding on something fairly kind of rotten that's causing it to have a little bit of diarrhea. But Chilean? Well, no, I don't. I suppose it could if it was force-fed, but you know, Tingana seems to have. Oh, look at that! He's so full, actually. But I mean, no, I've never seen an animal die from itself, from its eating by itself. I mean, if, like I say, if it's force-fed, possibly, well, most definitely. But just by themselves like that, no. I just get to a point where it just gets uncomfortable and they'll just stop feeding. But I suppose it is very possible with Tingana putting it to the test at the moment that he's eaten so much you would think that he's going to actually pop, but he seems to be all right. He's still very much alive and well, and it's amazing to see him in the condition that he is. You know, if you think about this time last year, he was in great condition, and then he went down this very horrible sort of patch where he lost condition very quickly through December, January, February, and into March. And then, you know, he started to slowly come right a little bit in May, June, and by July, he was back to his normal self again. So it's pretty amazing to kind of see him as good as he is right now. And, you know, you look at him and you think about his age, and then you look at Mfakazi yesterday, who's clearly had a tough life as things have gone, and you realize that Tingana is in really good shape. He's got far fewer cuts and scrapes than what Mfakazi's got, and so, you know, it's an interesting kind of take on the life of a leopard, one that's nomadic versus one that's been dominant and lived in a prime area where he hasn't had to kind of fight nearly as much maybe as what Mfakazi has. Right, well, he's going to groom himself now as possible, well, as I would expect from him, and I'm pretty sure he's going to end up sleeping up there. But while we see what Tingana decides to do, let's send you back across to Bushwalk, who is doing a bit of tracking.
I have got a very, very fresh track here on the ground. Just a few minutes ago, I saw this very big hyena heading towards the bushes here on Central. And this hyena was just full of blood everywhere. Not blood from the injuries. It seems like one of the cats or one of the dogs caught something in the area. And now I will be investigating. Hopefully it's Tandi and Kalamba. Now I'm going to backtrack this hyena and see where it's coming from. So you can see that here on the ground, the track looks very much fresh. Look at that. And you can even see some of the toenails there. And there's urine as well, which is very much rare to see. The urine for the hyenas on the ground is very rare. I just want to sniff, just to experience how it smells like. It's a very, very strong smell. So, but the smell is much more like the body of the hyenas, and it's also like their markings. So it means here when walking, they are also leaving behind quite a lot of scent apart from just the urine, the scent markings, because now I can feel it's a very distinctive smell, which is more like the hyena pasting. Pasting is what the hyena comes to the grasses and leave some of the markings there for territorial purposes. So now I'm going to be back tracking this hyena and see. I can hear them. Yeah, these hyenas are calling here in the area now as I'm talking. Yeah, that's quite a very, very loud call. So that faint noise we are hearing on the background, it is the hyena, or is the one that we saw trespassing here. But apart from this one, others are answering where I'm heading to. I am going to be backtracking this animal to see what we are going to see, and hopefully we're going to find what we are looking for. So the difference between hyenas and big cat tracks. Oh, lucky that I've got a lovely clear track here again. So you can easily see here that this hyena is going towards this direction. So if you can check here, the big cats, they have got 3 lobes. Here we can only see 1, 2 lobes. And if you look here, I've got a toenail. And a toenail, as the big cats don't have the toenails. But other cats such as the cheetahs, they also have the toenails on the ground. So big cats such as leopards and the lions is the one that normally they don't have the toenails on their tracks. They only bring them out when they want to use them. So this track here is showing you that this is a hyena track. And also the toes on the ground for the cats, they are much more round, whereas the hyenas is like a banana shape. So now let's carry on and see if we are going to be lucky with our search. So now let's go to Steve. I miss Steve already. He's got one of the birds in the Masai Mara at the moment.
Thanks, Sydney. We have indeed found a bird. This looks like a white-browed kukul. The first one for me. Very characteristic in its shape and design to be a kukul. You can see it's quite streaky. It's got that very rufous sort of wing bar down on the side, but that wide eyebrow, very easily seen. I haven't seen one of these before. The Burchell's and Senegal kukul are very, very different in their design. But behavior-wise, very, very similar. They are an omnivore, being quite predatory on small birds and eggs within nests. And they're generally quite skulking birds that like to sort of disappear into the thickets, into the bushes, like the one they're sitting on at the moment. But right now, they're enjoying the sunshine that's coming in from the east. And it's probably been a little bit of a cold night. It was pretty windy last night. And so they are there doing their thing. Very nice. It's a lifer for me. One more to the list. And the immature looks very similar to the adult, but it doesn't have... The white is sort of more of a yellowy, lighter color. So that's probably a breeding pair right there. You see that very firm, strong beak enables them to kill young chicks in the nest, also to break open eggs. And they're also quite a good insect eater and foraging. They move through the trees, jumping from branch to branch. Very skulking, as I said. It's not often that you see them just sitting. Well, it's the first time me seeing this individual, but the kukuls themselves in general are normally quite shy birds that generally hide around. Hello, you want to know if it's a songbird? Well, I haven't heard the call before. I've just opened my app. So if you listen closely to my microphone, let's hear what they sound like. There we go. Very similar to the kukuls in general. All kukuls have that very similar sort of water pouring out of a bottle, gurgling sort of sound. It was very cool to hear. So they might look similar, they sound similar, but it's slightly different to the other birds. And that is how they kind of differentiate. But I'm thinking you get both the Senegal and the Burchells up here. But this one being a new one. So very good. They are going to be active shortly once they probably warm up a little bit. They're all puffed up there, enjoying the morning rays. And we are not far away from this first little hippo crossing we were talking about. So we're going to go have a little look. There is one of the many vehicles. Lindsay, it does sound like Scott's laugh. Oh, I saw Scotty this morning. He's leaving today. Very sad. But it will be nice to keep up in touch with him in the near future, I have no doubt. Okay, well, thanks, James. Well, James is going to have to deal with my birding. I hope you don't mind, James. James likes the birds, which is a good thing. I only met Big James last night. And, ladies and gentlemen, he is indeed Big James. He is a very big man. So we are going to do some birding today. We're going to check out the crossing. Dash earlier asked me what I'm really excited to see, and I'd really like to see some action around one of these crossings. I've never witnessed the migration in person before. I saw some interesting visuals from the aeroplane yesterday. I had quite a few flights to get here, and you're flying over the Mara, and it's just epic. So interested to see. We're going to head towards, after this crossing, towards Serena, and I believe there's going to be a few crossings there today in and around the Serena area. Here we are for the first time at the marvelous Mara River. Well, we're going to just investigate. Here is the Mara River right here. It is pretty quiet for the most part, but nice and serene. You wouldn't realize or envisage that death and carnage can happen along the banks of these rivers. The lifeblood of the Masai Mara itself. And we're going to keep investigating along the course of this river to see what we can find. But in the meantime, let's go to Tristan with his hugely exciting activity with Tingana and Hosana.
Well, Steve, everything is calmed down quite a bit now, and it seems as though all of our cats and hyena as well are just taking it very, very easy. Tingana's kind of perched up in the tree, much like Mfakazi was. That hyena's sniffing about at the bottom, and kind of Hosana just lay down where he ended up with the last hyena approaching. But you can see that this male is very relaxed and is definitely the king of the castle. And you can also see that his profile is very different to what we saw from Mfakazi yesterday. Mfakazi has a much longer kind of face than what you see from Tingana. It's a very similar pose that they're striking now, except that Tingana is a bit more kind of bigger and his dewlap is definitely much larger. So, Kendall, you're asking about background info on Mfakazi. Well, yesterday we went through quite a lot of what we know, and it's not very much, to be honest with you. There's very little in the way of background info on him. We know that he was first seen in Ngala, or the first kind of proper sighting or photograph is from Ngala, which is in the Timbavati, and that was back in 2011. So he's actually older than what we even think. So we said 7, 8, but I don't know, maybe even older, maybe 9, 10, 11 could even be. He's an adult in that, well, I suppose about the size of Hosana, maybe a little bit bigger. It's always difficult to tell in a photograph, but roughly around that size. So I'd put him at 2, 3 years old in that photo, which means that he could be between 9 and 10. So he's an older leopard, and since then he's been nomadic. He's travelled through the Manyeleti, been seen quite a bit on Simambili, Arathusa, Elephant Plains, Buffelshoek, and into the Manyeleti. So he kind of moves around a lot. He doesn't seem to hold a fixed territory at this stage. And yeah, he's a bit of an unknown entity, to be honest. He doesn't really seem to kind of be seen as regularly as you would think for those kind of areas. He gets kind of pops up randomly 1 week, and then the next week he's gone and you don't see him again for a few months, and then he pops up again. So he's an interesting kind of fella and an interesting kind of leopard, but he's definitely lived a very hard life. He's got a number of scars all over his face, and he's got a few kind of growths on his neck and his leg, and just he looks a bit rough around the edges, but in a good way. So there's something about him that's quite captivating, but he's a bit of a kind of ruffian in comparison to the beautiful leopards like Hosana and, you know, Tingana even to a degree. And so, you know, we don't really know that much more than that. We kind of just know that he is around this area a lot more than we probably see. He is quite shy for the most part. Yesterday he kind of relaxed enough for us to get very close, and as close as what we are now to Tingana, but it's obviously he's not as comfortable with cars, and that's probably lends to why we don't see him that much and why we don't know that much about him. But that's all that there is, and I know there's a number of people that have really tried hard to find out more information about him. So either, yes, that Tingana expression, that I'm content with life expression, my paw is up and I'm going to try and find a comfy spot in order to sleep. Tingana, I fear that this may be a very difficult spot for you to sleep. I don't think you're going to have much fun, and I actually wouldn't be surprised Tingana comes down the tree. His confidence of keeping this kill will be far more than Mfakazi, and I wouldn't be surprised he just decides, well, I'm going to come lie down at the base of the tree, and then if Hosana approaches, he'll just kind of keep Hosana at bay. And so I don't think Tingana's going to spend the whole day sleeping up there. It's not a comfortable spot at all. It's not the greatest tree that they've put it in for a leopard to be able to sleep. So he'll probably come down at some point and lie down at the bottom and be a bit more comfortable. But we'll see where he goes. He's kind of still standing, and no, now he's going to sit back down again and try and reposition himself once more. But it's quite an epic scene of that kind of dead, well, not dead marula, but leafless marula, and those kind of partly cloudy conditions in the background. Very, very pretty. Good. Let's send you back across to Sydney. I believe he's still looking for any sign of Thandi and Tlalamba, and hopefully you'll have some success this morning.
I am just lucky with one of the horns here. I can see that these horns they look more like an impala. You can see they are spiral horns, and they've got some screws there as well. So the screws are very much hard. And there's even some of the things coming out here. And this is what confuses quite a lot of people. Sorry, this is what confuses quite a lot of people. This is from the hornborer moth. So this hornborer moth stays in here in order to prevent the sunburn, and it's the ones which are responsible to decompose this kind of horns. So I just want to try and feel and see how these animals are feeling when they are having these horns. They are very heavy, these horns, because these animals must have to, it's quite a responsibility, because the neck then must have to work very hard in order to get hold of their intruders when they're fighting and when they're chasing each other during the rutting season. So I don't think I will be able to handle this kind of heavy horns during the rutting season if I was an impala. So now we are still following on the tracks which are heading towards Tandi's area, and we are right inside Tandi's preferable area. So hopefully these hyenas, we might find what they were looking for or what they were eating in the area. Lindy girl, thank you very much for such a lovely comment. Yeah, I was just trying to feel it. I can see there's some tracks here. Not too sure what these tracks are, but they're not very clear. Seems like it was the baboons yesterday. It is not now. It's fainted already. So these hyenas, the tracks are still leading us towards the Cheetah Cut Line area. So we are now passing another drainage line. And here, I've been here on several occasions, and I have seen Tandi and Kalamba in this area. So that's why I'm so very confident that these hyenas, maybe they are coming from a kill somewhere. And the suspect is Tandi and Kalamba. So these hyenas, maybe they are coming from that area. Safari Sally, you can tell the age of an impala from the horns, because these animals, when they are just about a year old, you will just see these horns caving in, and as they're growing, then the spiral starts to develop until they are fully grown. So it's very easy to judge when they are still very young. When they are old, it's difficult, but you'll see the big gaps. So now let's go to Steve, who also got one of the scavengers.
Thank you, Sydney. I wish you all the best with tracking Tandi and Kalamba. I wasn't able to see them in my last stint in Djuma, and anyway, we have found some interesting signs on the ground here. A group of, I think, Rupel's vultures that are on the ground. None of them have got any form of swelling in their crop area, which means I don't think that anything of any substantial size was killed. They're all on the ground. Maybe it's due to the lack of trees out here that they're on the ground, but is it possible that something was killed here and there's only a small little bit of remnants of it left on the ground there? But normally when vultures feed, I mean, you can see the one far on the left there, just on below the throat, you can see that the crop is not distended at all, which means that there's no food in there, and if there was, it's very small. They've probably just eaten it and swallowed it. But vultures have the potential to put almost a kilogram of meat into that crop and then fly off to feed hungry chicks, or even a beloved that might be sitting with the chick or on some eggs. But that is not the only birds we have, as James is going to pan straight over my head and show you we've got some very pretty birds on the other side. Oh, there we go. What is that guy? Now, I do know him. It's one of the lapwings. I wonder if anyone out there, #SafariLive, knows what this lapwing is. It is not a lapwing that we find down in South Africa. I've seen one before. I've just got to try to remember the name of it. I saw one up in Malawi. #SafariLive if you know what lapwing this is, or drop it in on the YouTube stream. I'll quickly find it on my app. I think it's quite a simple name. Quite a few lapwings around. Lauren, you want to know about when vulture chicks first go to kills? Well, they first got to fledge, so at least probably 8 months to a year before they really do get off of the nest, and then they start moving around. Up until that point, up until the first 10 months of their life, they are very dependent on the adults to bring them food back, but that is part and parcel of being a large bird. Large birds generally, or large animals, require a lot more attention than smaller individuals. They're not as sort of independent early on. It's kind of what you get with large species. Generally require a lot more attention. And here we get the prettiest of the birds coming in. Indigo girl, it's not a pied lapwing, and not a pied lapwing. We don't actually get pied lapwings that I know of. Maybe we do. I'm looking in my my South African app because I know this is a bird that does occur down in South Africa very rarely. It's a very uncommon bird in South Africa, and a very, very pretty one indeed. And they have actually been known. A guide I was assisting training with when I was in Malawi actually did. No. April is not a black-capped lapwing. I'll give you the answer shortly, but an individual guide by the name of Sam in Malawi, he was actually did some research and found this individual cross-breeding with the blacksmith lapwing. They do look quite similar to the blacksmith, but you see how brown their back is. It was indeed, well, here we go. The marabou's coming in to see what he can get from whatever's on the ground there and deciding this is actually a good place to do some grooming. Maybe this is the grooming station. Maybe that's what it's all about. And James, if you wouldn't mind going back to that lapwing for a moment, and then we'll give the big reveal about who exactly it is. I did warn you all it would be a nice birding morning. And once we've ID'd this lapwing, we have some other special birds on the other side of the road. So it is indeed a spur-winged lapwing. Those of you who said pied or black-capped, I'm not sure if we get those, in fact, but quite a limited distribution. There's only rarely seen occasions in South Africa. They are quite common in Malawi, and I believe they're quite common up here as well. It's just a habitat preference. Well done, Yannick. You got it correct. That's fantastic. Fantastic. Blacksmith, not blacksmith, spur-winged lapwing. James, Richard, you got it right. Well done, sir. Okay, so one final bird, well, should I say two final birds before we move off from this position. Shall we just go to the other side of the road there, James? We've got a very beautiful stork. Just watch my head. Very beautiful stork, which I'm sure all of you know who that guy is. That individual is. I tend to say the word guy from time to time. I don't necessarily always mean it, because that is actually a female. You can see the saddle-billed stork with the yellow eye. The female's got a yellow eye. The male has got a black eye with a little yellow wattle just underneath the beak. And there, to the right of him, is a few sacred ibises jumping around in the small little drainage depression there, doing their probing within the soil, looking for all sorts of critters, worms and the like inside the soil there. And the name sacred ibis comes from the fact that they were first seen in Egypt and highly revered by the Egyptians because they used to arrive with the harvest. So, well, not the harvest, but with the rains. So when the Nile first would flood, the ibises would come in their multitudes, and that was a very good sign, because when the Nile flooded, it was essentially a very good year, and lots of harvest would be coming shortly afterwards. So the arrival of the ibises indicated to them something very special in the offing, and hence the name sacred. Well, very good. The bird list continues for the morning. And James corrected me in saying that we weren't at Hippo Crossing before. We were somewhere completely else. But, well, I'm going to make a lot of mistakes in my navigation in the next few days. But we'll get there, James, won't we? Yes, we do. James says, yes, we'll get there. Day by day, we'll figure out where we're going. But in the meantime, let's go and see how Sydney's navigation's getting on. Hopefully he gets to find Thandi and her little one.
I am right on top of the termite mound here just to try and scan the area. Still after the tracks of Thandi, of the hyena that I am hoping is leading us to Thandi. So on top here, I have got something very interesting to share with you. These termites who are staying under the ground here, they are very much gifted. You know, the termites, they are neotonic, which means the adults still has got quite a lot of larval qualities. So these termites, when they are too old, they can be able to undergo a regressive molt, whereby they are going to again go back to their initial stages. Is that not amazing? Imagine these tiny little insects going from old age back to the young age in order to survive the whole colony. So these insects, they do quite a lot of interesting things, and they help us a lot, because if they are not here, the trees are going to starve. Look at these green trees. This is one of the beneficiaries, a strong evidence of the termites' job well done. You can see the trees around the termite mound, they are all very much green during the dry season. So we've got to look after this kind of insects because they've got a very interesting ecological role to play. And at the end, we are also the beneficiaries. So I'm going to carry on now and see if we can find something interesting. Michelle, there is quite a lot of things we are going to share together about the termites during these safari activities. These insects, their stories, it doesn't end here. It's still a long way to go. Ziva, the termite mounds, how they build, these insects are so clever. First, they don't just build. When they are building, they even know that this side of the wall is the newest and the right side is the oldest. They even use some of the markings. They mark the soil when they are building, and they use the markings from the vegetation material, which cannot easily dissipate. It doesn't get disappeared. It gets disappeared after a long time. So they use their salivary, quite a lot of sticky saliva, as well as their droppings to build the termite mound. It can rain 80%, the termite mound is not going to get dissolved. Yes, if it rains too much, non-stop, for more than 100 and something percent, chances of the termite mound to dissolve is high, but I never saw one dissolving. These insects are well equipped and they are proactive. They think ahead. They know rainy season is come. This surface of the termite mound has to be very hard. So now, let's go to the other beneficiaries of the termites, Tingana with Tristan. You mustn't forget that the animals as well get benefit, because what these animals are preying on is feeding from the vegetation which is fed by the termites.
Well, it's true that most animals do benefit from it indirectly in some ways. They will, and obviously our leopards use termite mounds quite regularly for an area to be able to scan and scout for food, as well as obviously sometimes even eating them. Now, we've got Tingana, who you can see is staring with intent to the northern side, and the reason why is that, there's hyenas with a kill here. They've got more of a kill, so there's a whole bunch of hyenas that are coming through just on my right-hand side. And look, Hosanna's now noticed it too. He's going to try and see if he can maybe thieve this, but we've got a problem here, because he's going to get chased up a tree. There we go. Look at that. There's hyenas absolutely everywhere all of a sudden. So we've got hyenas coming in, and there's definitely one that's carrying a carcass at the moment. So why they've all of a sudden arrived, I saw Corky come in, as well as Pretty, they were around, and so everybody is kind of moved in at once, and it's interesting to go and see. I want to try and just go forward a little bit and actually see what this hyena is carrying, because I think these are the same hyenas that Sydney had earlier that had food. Oh, sorry, little one. Didn't even see this. Look at that. She's got bad wounds on her. I'm not going to go behind the car. Don't go behind the car. There's one that's got these horrible wounds on its back of its leg. And it might come round on Craig's left-hand side. Just waiting to try and see if it does. But they've all of a sudden, hyenas have arrived from all over the place. And like I say, one has definitely got a meal in it. So we're going to go try and get to the one that's got food, because I want to just quickly see what it's actually eating. It'll be interesting. I have a funny feeling that maybe, just maybe, it's got something to do with the wild dogs. And the reason why I say that is because the wild dogs were seen last night crossing in from Chitwa towards Djuma and Torchwood. And so if they've come from central side, it could be that maybe the dogs killed something. Oh, that's a beautiful tree that Hosanna's in. The dogs have killed something, and that's why they've now sort of scavenged that. But this hyena that I saw, there's one there that's got blood on it, and there's another one carrying something close by here. We'll get to Hosanna in the tree just now. I'm just trying to find where the other hyena is. Can you see it, Craig? The one that's carrying meat, us straight in front by the termite mound. So it's walking quite far. I don't know if we can maybe just try and get a shot from here even. It's going to be very difficult. But it's moving in that area. There it is. Going to the den by the looks of it. So Proud Cat Mama, how does a hyena clan form or come together? Well, most of the time it's obviously they're born into the clan and the clan then just grows from there. You will get times where the clan itself or new members will arrive, so males will distribute out. Very seldom females distributing out, but it does happen. There are splits that take place, particularly if the clans get too big and difficult to find food, then you can sometimes see it. Now we're going to come back to our leopards shortly. I just want to see if maybe they're taking food back to the den, because that's what it looks like. Looks like they're heading in that direction, so I just want to quickly try and see what's going on. I'll head back to Hosanna because he's in the most perfect tree at the moment and try and see what we can get. But our hyena was moving this way. It seemed like it was a bit shy to kind of stick around. So it has been confirmed that the hyena with the kill is the one that Sydney saw on Central. Well, it's very possible. Like I say, I'm pretty sure that it's them. They got blood all over them, all of the ones that have arrived recently. Now, where did it go? The den should be straight in front of me. The den should be just here in front, so I'm pretty sure that's where it's headed. Obviously don't want to disturb them too much. Where's that hyena now? Okay, well, let's go to the den itself. There's a nice little 2-track that runs straight to the den, so let's just go there and have a little quick look. We'll head back to the leopards shortly. I know it's just that we haven't seen this little one in a long time, and a lot of you love to see hyena cubs, and so it seems like a good idea to try and go and just see if this meat is being taken back. Right, now I'm going to try and get towards the den itself. Hopefully that hyena is arriving there as we speak, and while we try and get there, let's send you back across to the bushwalk team and see if they've managed to uncover why these hyenas have got blood all over them.
Hey, I nearly fell there. I stumbled just across a stem there. So now we are right behind these hyena tracks, and it seems like the hyenas that we are tracking is the very same hyenas that went to Tristan sighting at the moment. And I'm sure one of them has got quite a lot of blood on it. It's the one that we saw earlier, and that is giving us a confirmation that the hyenas here, they don't just walk purposelessly. So this hyena, where it's coming from, we want to see where it's coming from and what he was doing, because now Tristan is there with them now, also by another kill. So I'm just trying to listen just to see if maybe I can hear some kind of alarm. Oh, these buffaloes, that's why I can hear the alarm calls there. You can see this a head of buffaloes crossing the road there now. There was the Francolin calling, so I was just being curious. So now I can see the buffaloes are there. So now we have to work out in a safe approach direction so that we can have a good sighting. It's going to be interesting. Here, it's not only buffaloes, same direction. I can even see the zebras there. So we are going to see, but the tracks, they are going the opposite side. So we will still carry on with the tracks, but we will just quickly now try and set up an approach direction before we carry on looking for Kalamba and Tandi. Jojo, thank you very much for the reminder. We got to be very careful because, yes, the wind as well here. It is stable, the wind is blowing a little bit, but this wind is not trustworthy. It can change at any time. So we've got to be very, very careful. It's quite a very big breeding head. So now let's go to Steve, who is looking for the interesting birds.
Always looking for birds, Sydney. Well, we're finally going to get to that hippo crossing now. It's taking us some time because there's lots of birds around. Just spent a few moments with an African jacana there, but it was a juvenile. And the juvenile, if you look at it very quickly, you can almost think it's a lesser jacana, which I haven't seen in many, many years. But after investigation, it was just a juvenile African jacana, paler, not as dark in color, but clearly not a lesser jacana. Sorry about the, there we go. We got a few of the bigger bovids in the area. They are down just in this little depression, enjoying some mud, enjoying some greenery, and they are pretty much knee deep in what is a very, very wet and inundated sort of offshoots of the Mara River. These are areas that were very dry when I was here last, but if you look to the right a little bit, James, can you go a little bit right? There's that buffalo. He's completely in there. Now you can imagine you need some serious four-wheel drive to be able to maneuver through that, because it's not just water, it's mud. And it's thick, it's almost quicksand-like. But it seems as if the buffalo are quite enjoying those little plants growing on top of the water. I'm not sure exactly what they are, but they seem to be enjoying them. There's an enormous herd of buffalo we passed on our way down the hill. I have no doubt we will find some more. There's just a group of what I'm going to think is some Dugger boys. Those of you who don't know what a Dugger boy is, it's basically Dugger is the Shangaan word for mud. And so often these guys are very, very full of it, covered in it, cool themselves down, keeps away the biting flies, especially down in South Africa, that is. The temperatures down there get much warmer than they do up here. Zephyr, you think these buffalo are bigger than the Djuma buffalo? I don't actually know. It's possible due to the fact that the diet out here is pretty good for all the animals, all the grazers especially, that they are a little bit bigger. I mean, you see the impala here are slightly bigger, especially the horns, than the impala down in South Africa, but I don't know if they are bigger. I mean, we're quite far off at the moment. I would guesstimate that they're a pretty similar sort of size, but maybe there's a few kilograms or pounds on these buffalo. I'm not sure, but I didn't think when I looked at them that they were any bigger than the South African buffalo. They are related, but if anything, it would be diet related that would cause them to be slightly bigger. But that is a good observation. I'll keep my eyes peeled. Sadly, we won't be able to go and grab one and weigh him to see exactly if they do get above the ton mark. Rosemary, we're hoping to find some crocodiles. I'm finally going to get us to a viewing point on the Mara River, which is taking a lot longer than I originally thought. But we'll see if there's some crocodiles there. I'm sure we will find them somewhere within the river today. At a lot of these crossing points where animals have been crossing, the crocodiles are pretty full and pretty much enjoying themselves. So we're going to move on from these buffalo that are really enjoying the aquatic vegetation. And we're going to see if we can finally make our way into Hippo Crossing. Next one, James assures me. So I've got my map. It's not very hard to get lost, or it's not very hard to navigate out here, but I'm just so excited to being out in the wilderness again that I'm stopping for absolutely everything. But anyway, Tristan is having all the excitement this morning. Let's go and see exactly what father and son are up to.
Well, unfortunately, we couldn't find that hyena that had the carcass. It didn't go to the den. We checked the den, it didn't come out there. So it's obviously eating it somewhere in the block away from all the others. But I was intrigued to see what kind of carcass it was and what it kind of looked like. I'd imagine either they killed it or if they've robbed maybe Tandi or the wild dogs, and then have come back this way. But you can see this is a Hosanna that's sitting up in this marula tree, which is a beautiful, beautiful tree. It's a pity that we don't have a little bit of a more blue sky, but otherwise it would have been the most perfect kind of tree to have a leopard in. And then across from him, his dad is sitting and kind of just staring him down. So that's the tree there that he's in. And then there you can see Tingana in the tree straight across from him. So Tingana's busy watching him through the branches just to say kind of, what are you up to and what are you doing? And now that the two of them are happy that it's each other, everybody is going to kind of settle back down again, and Hosanna is going to chill and Tingana is going to chill, and the hyenas are, they're just everywhere. So it's an epic sighting. It was amazing that we, like I say, that these leopards actually managed to keep this kill warm for Kazi yesterday. He must have killed that impala, and while still kind of strangling it or trying to kind of subdue it, he must have taken it up that tree, because these hyenas must have been here like a flash. But look at that, 2 leopards in one shot in 2 different trees. It's not every day that you're going to get that. I think that's very, very cool. I think we're very lucky, to be honest, to get something like that. So that's very, very, very cool to see. It's a pity that there's actually a termite mound right behind me, because if there wasn't, we'd be able to park that we could actually get them kind of behind one another, which would have been a very cool kind of image of one almost like stalking the other one if we could. But we'll try and see. Maybe we can wing something and try and get it right. But there's Hosanna, who's perched on top of the tree now in probably the best possible way that we could imagine. Right, now I'm going to send you back across to Bushwalk. I didn't catch exactly what's happening, but either way, I'm sure it will be entertaining. Sydney seems to be in a very good mood this morning.
You can see I have got a very big head of the buffaloes at the moment, and these buffaloes are very much curious. I'm not going to spend much time here, despite the fact that the wind is on my favor, but I can see that a lot of them, they are not settled. They are all not doing anything. They're just looking, staring towards my direction, my approach direction. There were some zebras who gave them an information about our presence at the moment, so you can see that they are all looking at us. So their sense of smell is very good. The wind is coming towards our direction. Their eyesight is not that very good, but I can promise you, these buffaloes, they know that something is here. So I'm just going to now slowly leave the area, and then we can carry on looking for the hyenas. So you can see that these buffaloes, they are not that very far. They are really looking at us, and we really don't want to disturb them. Yeah, this is indeed very, very intense. You can look, they are right there. It's quite a very big head. You can see everywhere is just black. It's a very long convoy. So these buffaloes are still much more active now because the weather is on their favor. I can see that it is overcast at the moment, so they're going to have to eat now and go to the nearest waterhole. Their nearest waterhole here now is Chitwa Dam, but they're heading much more towards Twins Dam area. Pauline, the chances of these buffaloes to charge, they are very much low. Why? Because we are on a comfort distance. The distance between us and them is very long at the moment. Only if we trespass the comfort zone and enter an alert zone is where they are going to start what they're doing and try to also investigate much further. And if we trespass that, they will give me some warning signals. If I pass the warning zone, anything is going to happen to us. I will be right at the critical zone. But now we are leaving the buffaloes in peace. So now let's go back to Hosanna just by the tree with Tristan.
Yes, he is. He's up in the tree at the moment and kind of scouting out, looking out into the distance towards the sort of western side, which is where that other hyena went. That's kind of roughly the area that guy had, well, lady, I think it looked like a female hyena that had that carcass went, and maybe Hassan is thinking about trying to go and chase that one off and get a meal of his own, but he's probably got zero chance given how many hyenas are around. If he even remotely tries to steal anything, he's going to get himself into a bit of a spot of bother, I would say. And there's actually a hyena that's walking right behind us. That's why he's kind of looking over his shoulder, and very, very full of blood behind us at the moment, so it's not a great view because it's too close. It hopefully will come around to our left. It looks like one of the big females. I can't see nicely. All I can see is just a head that's poking out. So she should come around fairly shortly. There we go. So just kind of looking through from there and watching what's going on. But it's amazing. Then you got these kind of interactions between all these animals, and it was bound to happen given the proximity to the den site. We were bound to get a lot of hyenas in this particular sighting. I doubted that we would get anything different. You can see that they're kind of all looking around. Probably the fact that there's 2 leopards up a tree, they might think that there's more food on the ground itself, and that's why they're kind of roaming around. But that tummy is huge. Look at that, how swollen it is. It's almost bigger than Tingana's tummy, if that's even possible. Huge belly on that particular hyena at the moment. Very cool. Now, it looks like but yes, well, he does. I mean, Hassan is about as beautiful as any leopard you could ever imagine, especially given when he poses like that into a tree. You can see he's kind of up there, and he really looks a serious picture when he's like that. He's a very special cat. Like I say, it's pity about the light being a little bit sort of bright behind him, but otherwise it is absolutely beautiful. You couldn't ask for a better tree to have a leopard in. Tingana's is not that great, but Hassan's tree is absolutely perfect. What are you looking at, boy? Is there another hyena coming? Maybe another one that's on its way that he's kind of moving towards. Now, I believe a lot of you are loving the screenshots that you're getting. Yes, Craig is doing a sterling job this morning in being able to bring you all these beautiful sights in the form of leopards up different trees and hyenas all around us, and so I'm glad that you're all taking your screenshots, and hopefully they're coming out very, very pleasant. Now, here comes another hyena. That's why he's kind of watching. Straight down below him is where this guy is walking. So it's interesting just to see kind of how this clan has moved back in. I wonder where they were for all those months. You know, we had no sign of hyena dens on Djuma for, it was pretty much almost a year. And then all of a sudden, during this winter, they started to move back into the area, and we started to see them kind of moving about, and Corky and Pretty were around, and it kind of seems as though the clan has moved back into the sort of core part of Djuma, which is quite interesting, and hopefully they'll stick around for a lot longer. It's always so nice when we've got lots of hyenas around. They definitely shake things up and make things a little trickier for a lot of the other animals, and certainly provide a lot of entertainment from a interaction point of view. You often see them kind of interacting with, you know, the likes of Hosana and Tingana and Tandi, and it means that, you know, they often kind of provide these epic showdowns. Crazy to think, though, we went for weeks without seeing, or months without seeing them, and now they're kind of part and parcel of everyday drives at the moment. It's wonderful. I know there's a lot of following for the hyenas, and I'm pretty sure Jamie is super excited, because obviously Jamie's coming back soon, and she'll be on Djuma, and she loves the hyenas. We've seen she kind of worked out the North Clan very well, and I'm pretty sure she's going to be super excited to get back here and see the Djuma clan as well. Right, now, we're talking about North Clan. Let's send you back across to Steve in the Mara, who's exploring, and I'm sure is having a wonderful time doing it, and maybe he'll bump into some of the North Clan members as he goes.
Thank you so much, sir. We are still exploring, as is always the case, and we've just crossed the Mokoro River, which is dry. A little bit of water sort of hanging around on the pan side of it, but James assures me this is an area where the Mogoro Pride as well as Scarface himself are often seen. So there's a vehicle up here that's parked. We might go and see what they're looking at. There might be some lions, but I'm just going to stop here for a second and just have a look over to the right hand side where we've got some impala. And apparently this area here, just a few weeks ago, a month ago, was inundated with tall grass. Am I wrong, James? This was just tall grass. And the wildebeest moved through with the zebra, and look at it. It's an open clearing. There's some yearling impalas. The impala don't breed the same way up here as they do in Djuma. There's no breeding season, although those two young males do look the same age. There's no like a rutting season up here that I'm aware of. I think they're constantly doing their thing. And there's a topi in the background coming running in. I don't know what they're all investigating. It's possible that they have spotted. I'm just going to do a little scan with my binoculars and see what it is these cars are looking at. Fantastic, you can just see absolutely everywhere. In comes the topi. Not sure what he's up to, maybe just coming over to have a bit of a drink. But quite incredible how this environment sustains an enormous amount of animals. Now you wouldn't think it would be possible, but after the rains, there's a beautiful volcanic soil, and volcanic ash soil creates enormous amounts of productivity. And you're looking at like meter-long grass throughout the plain, with the big elephant in the background. Very good. Well, I'm just going to move the car. I've parked in the middle of the road, and someone would like to come past us. So give me 1 second as we go. Good morning. Well, it doesn't seem like they had some lions. If they did, they didn't stay very long. Well, anyway, something I would love to be doing this morning is being on foot. It seems like bushwalk is, and they have found something of interest.
I have got something on the ground which looks like an ice cream. This is the droppings from the hyenas. They were left early this morning because they are still very, very fresh. And when looking at the pointing here, the pointing of these droppings, you can see is facing much more towards the eastern side. So it means this hyena defecated while he was looking at that side. So that is where we're going at the moment. So this is what is called a scat. When the scat is dry and dusty, you must avoid inhalation of that dust, because this carries quite a lot of bacteria and antibiotics which can give you what is called zoonotic diseases. Those are the diseases which can be transmitted from animals to human beings. So you have to be very careful. So now we're going to leave here because, hey, the smell from this scat is not nice at the moment. It's very, very strong. The chances of coming across the scorpions, they are very high, much more during the summer. So when it's nice and a lot of insects, and after rains, we are going to see a lot of scorpions, obviously, here. And they hide by these dead branches. They stick against the bark of the old dead branches as well. Some, they bury themselves here under the ground. So the chances of seeing the scorpions, they are very, very there. So this hyena traveled a very long distance. We are now at the Chitakat line, which is the border between Djuma and the Torchwood. We are right there now. So it seems like Tandi and Kalamba, they are still much more towards the private concessions, because we are right at the junction. But we are going to scan the whole area and check all these rows here to see if she is not back this side, because now the hyena is leading us very far. So these hyenas are coming all the way from Torchwood, the tracks. So unfortunately, we cannot go in there. But we will try to investigate here just to try and see if they didn't come out from this block. So now let's go back to Tristan and Hosanna. Hosanna, who is watching the hyenas.
Well, Tingana and Hosanna alike, both of them are watching hyenas that are pretty much scattered everywhere. There's milling about of hyenas in all directions, and it's keeping the two boys on their toes. And you can see Tingana's not too phased. I think he wants to come down, though. I think he wants to come lie down, but unfortunately, right at the base of the tree is a hyena that's lying below him, so he's not going to be able to do that any time soon. And Hosanna, I think, is in the same boat. I don't think Hosanna really wants to be up in a tree at the moment, but he's unfortunately got nowhere else to go, so he's going to have to be stuck up there for now, and he's trying to find a place where he's going to be a little bit more comfortable. And if he just turned around and lay like he was right in the beginning, it was fairly comfortable. It seemed like he looks comfortable, and now he's kind of changed and turned, and he looks as though he's really not in the best spot this stage. But we'll see how it goes. I'm sure once the hyenas stop milling about and they all lie down, which they will eventually, then you'll find that Hosanna will pop down and go and find somewhere to go and rest. But definitely a lot more hyenas now than there were earlier. So Ramona, just one hyena clan on Djuma. Hyena clans generally can occupy quite big territories depending on densities and how many there are in the areas, but you know, there's just the one that we have here. There's a clan on the fringes on both sides. So on the western side is the Elephant Plains clan, and then on the eastern side there's a big group that comes in from Kruger from time to time onto Nkoro. But that is the sum total of the hyenas. There's only one clan. I mean, it's not a huge area that we're talking about. You know, we're talking about the sort of area that Djuma occupies is only 1,000 hectares, which is very small for a set of hyenas. You can see the sun is now just starting to break through a little bit and is going to be very, very bright. It's been an overcast start to our day, but now that the sun's coming through, it's going to make quite a bright sun. I think Hosanna seems to have bolted upright in the tree. He's standing very upright. Look at that. He's almost as stretched out as he can be. He's kind of spotted something. He's almost gone into a meerkat pose in the tree itself. And he's lucky his legs are just long enough to be able to be sitting as straight. It's a nice posture, Hosanna. You would have done well with your posture there. People would have been very impressed that you kept your posture nice and straight. And yes, good core strength. So obviously Hosanna's been doing his yoga of late, and that's why he's able to stand nice and straight with his back straight the way that it is. Very cool. He's such a goofy character, but one that is really kind of, I don't know what the words are, but he's given us so much over the course of the last few months. We've been so spoiled to have had him as much as we have, and there's been pretty much every single day there's been a Hosanna sighting for over 2 months now, which is pretty special. So we really have been spoiled, and he's got such a personality that makes him, you know, hard not to enjoy. And I know there's obviously a lot of leopards out here, and we spend a lot of time with leopard, which is not always everybody's favorite animal, but it's been intriguing watching what's taken place between, you know, him and as well as his dad and his sister-in-law and his sister, direct sister, I suppose. Well, I suppose they're both sister-in-laws in the form of Thandi and Tlalamba, but it's been very interesting kind of watching this whole process play out over the course of the winter, and I'm pretty sure it's going to change as soon as we get our first big rains and water kind of shifts all over the place. So it's going to make it very difficult for these guys to actually be, you know, in their normal kind of places, and they definitely not going to congregate around a water point like they have been at the camp. So it's going to change a lot when summer comes, and hopefully Hosanna does decide to stick around. Right, so while we sit and see if anything else happens, I just wonder if Mfukazi maybe might be around somewhere. We'll have a little scratch and see, and maybe go check the hyena den once more. While we do that, though, let's send you back to Steve, who's bumbling about.
Thank you, Tristan. Well, all the way back up here in the Masai Mara, we have showing you a beautiful giraffe. The Mara giraffe, I do believe it's called. Very similar to that of the southern giraffe down in South Africa, but just slight changes in the pattern. There are apparently 7 subspecies of giraffe. And he is enjoying himself a little shrub. So these vast plains of the Mara that we see are not actually natural to a great extent anymore. A fire plays an enormous role in keeping it quite open and full of grass, but elephants also play that role, as well as a lot of the browsing animals. But many years ago, people who moved into this area did a lot of clearing of the bush, and due to the fact that it is a very, very nutrient-rich soil, the grass that grows back heralds enormous fires. And I know I talk a lot about it down in Djuma, about plants being able to avoid the fire trap. And once they get over a certain height, a lot of your savanna plants are sort of immune, or what's the word, resistant to being burnt. And so when you find these stands of shrubbery that are alive, you can see it's actually a little bit of a koppie, or a little bit of a mound. There's rocks there, and they've all probably protected the trees from fire. So ravines, rocky areas are the places where the trees still exist, also along the river course where it's very wet and the grass doesn't get to that dry sort of high fuel biomass to burn them, whereas the rest of the area, enormous amounts of fire or fuel due to the beautiful, beautiful soil we find underneath. And such a beautiful picture of a beautiful Vince. It is a majestic creature, and that is the Olololo mountain range in the background there. And our camp is perched on it, not in that direction, but a bit further behind us. And this giraffe clearly fed on this area of foliage is now going to walk all the way over to that other protected spot, because as most of you out there should know, giraffe are exclusively browsers. That is the reason for the very long neck. So if you do find them out in the open like it is now, it's basically they're just moving from one area of good feeding to another. And giraffe are very important, as we've always seen down in Djuma. You look at them, they will look at a predator and see how it's looking now. The ears forward, the head forward, having a look. No lion would be able to sneak up to giraffe in this vegetation, but they still have to be cautious. He's on his own. There's a little bit of a breeze coming from behind us. He seems to have spotted something. No, he's just having a poo. And off he goes. I'm going to carry on walking towards the next patch of vegetation in the distance. So as this giraffe makes some tracks and heads away from us, the bushwalk have got something very beautiful on the ground in the form of a track they'd like to show you.
I have got a very fresh track now here, which is a completely different track from the one we saw earlier this morning, which was for the hyena. This one, if you count 1, 2, 3. 3 lobes is telling you that this is a cat. Now we are lucky we have identified Tandy's track in the area, but unfortunately we have not yet found the tracks for Kalamba. So we are now going to track down Tandy and see where these tracks are heading to. Maybe this is going to lead us to where Kalamba is. It's coming from Torchwood back to our property. So it's just that now our trekking is going to be difficult because Tandy just went over the side, which is just grassland. So it will be difficult. I must have to now go down to the other road to see where these tracks are coming out. So I'm going to have to walk down quickly as possible because I can see the track is very, very fresh. It's very much windy here, much more towards Torchwood. So the track is looking very clear. That is giving me a strong sign that this animal has been here now and is avoiding the road. I can see that Herbert is already leading us in front there. So I'm just going to keep following and see if we can find the fresh tracks. I didn't copy that question, Julian, very well. If you can repeat that, Emma, for me. Julian, yeah, it's difficult these days. The leopards, they are just playing hide and seek. But it's only Kalamba who is doing that. The other leopards, we are seeing them like we saw earlier on. And what Tristan is having at the moment. So I'm just going to climb that little termite mound there and see from the top. Something has been happening here. I just want to see who was this? I can see there's urine, and this animal even covered the droppings. I can't see the tracks very well. Oh, there's some tracks there. So this means this was a steenbok. This is how the steenbok do these things. They come, they defecate, and they use their front legs, and then they cover their dropping. So it's one of those animals which are very difficult to see the droppings. Oh yes, the droppings. Look, it's a steenbok. We can see the droppings are not very far away. You can see it's not covered completely. So this was a steenbok. Lucky to see the steenbok droppings. It's something very, very rare. So now, let's go back to Tristan and the leopards.
Well, we've got a very cool shot here because Hassan has descended the tree and has now climbed a termite mound. And you can see in the background is Tingana. There's Tingana sitting there, and then Hosanna in the foreground. Isn't that a cool way to see the two of them? I think it's very cool that we've got both of them kind of sitting in line with one another at the moment. Yes, Hosanna, thank you for climbing this particular mound, because I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to get the shot of the two of them, which is very, very cool. So we're lucky in that he kind of lay exactly where it gave us a bit of a line straight towards where Tingana is, but it's pretty weird kind of framing up a leopard, and in the background is another leopard that's busy moving around and kind of just sitting over his carcass. He's facing the complete opposite way now as Tingana, and so very, very cool. It would actually be better if Tingana was facing towards us, because that would be quite a kind of picture to have the two of them together. But very, very epic way to spend the morning. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself this morning. It's been sort of action the whole morning. Mrs. Grumpy, you say what a postcard shot it is. Very much so. It's amazing to actually, like I say, to think that you're watching one male leopard, in the background is another male leopard. You know, obviously we'd expect to kind of see something like this maybe with a mom and her cubs, but to have the two big boys kind of together like that is very, very cool. I suppose Hosanna needs to be referred to as a big boy these days. He's no longer a little cub, that's for sure. He's got some growing to do, but he's definitely bulked up a lot in the last year. If you compare all the kind of photographs of him from last year, you actually realize very quickly how much he's grown. You know, we tend to see him so often that you don't notice that growth pattern nearly as much, but when you go back and look at some of the pictures from before, you realize that he's bulked up massively and he's really developing into a beautiful leopard. And I think he's going to be, hopefully, a successful dominant male somewhere, and is going to find himself a territory and hopefully do very well for himself. And if that's here on Juma, that will be even better. But you know, whether or not that's going to be the case is going to be anyone's guess. It's going to take a while to kind of figure out whether or not he's going to be able to dominate the series. He's going to have a lot of competition, though. I mean, Hukamuri is not going to lie down and not try and push once Tingana starts to get a bit older. Oh, Laura Mo, you say this is the kind of shot that needs a good caption. Indeed, it does. It's one of those kind of epic pictures that you try and think about how you could actually sort of caption that. I don't know, actually. We'd have to be... What's he doing? Tingana in the background is fiddling. It looks like he's moving around and moving his carcass. That is so cool. Look at that. Oh, that is amazing. Well done, Craig. I think that's very cool. It's a pity the light is so harsh, but it's amazing to kind of think that you're watching a leopard in the distance and there was another one kind of facing out of focus in front of you. It's very cool. But yes, we need a caption for this. So maybe it's a good time to do a one-word tweet or a caption tweet for our sighting of our two leopards, one in front of the other. So you can do that hashtag SafariLive, and we'll try and see what we can get out of it. Hopefully you'll come up with some creative things. I'm not very creative with these kind of things, so you know, I'll have to wait for all of you to give us something. But either way, it is very, very, very cool to see what's going on here. We've, like I say, been spoiled this morning, and it's been so nice not just to have these two, you know, because obviously these two are some of our favorites, to have had the whole kind of Juma clan around us as well has been very cool, especially since, you know, Sydney saw them on the walk, and there was one that had blood on the face, and then we kind of got to this point where we now have them all around us, and we saw them arriving and kind of all starting to lie down in this particular area. So it's very, very, very cool sighting this morning. We've been lucky, and it's amazing how much an impala carcass can give you. If you think that we had a brief view of Mfokazi yesterday, and then last night we managed to see him really nicely, and now we've got Tingana here too, as well as the clan. So very cool. Good. We'll sit with these two and continue to enjoy the two shot that we have, and while we do that and wait for you guys to come up with some captions, let's send you back across to Steve in his exploration of the Mara.
How incredible. I can't wait to see the photos. Incredible. Hosana and Tingana in the same tree. Magnificent. So nice to see. We are finally making it towards parts of the Mara River that I was talking about. You forget how big this place is, really. After being in Djuma now, you can really get to everywhere you need to in a very short space of time down that side. James is finally giving me the thumbs up. I'm finally where I originally told you we would be. Just trying to position ourselves in a way. How's that, James? Right there. Okay, we got some hippopotamuses. See if we can find ourselves a crocodile somewhere in the murky water. Remember when I was last here, Taylor had an incredible sighting. I think it was on these rocks here of a male hippo in the water and one out the water having a little bit of a argy-bargy. And just listen to that sound of the water cascading across the rocks. And if you can hear that on the audio there, I'll just give you a moment. Very peaceful. Water flowing over rocks is quite meditation-like. Oh, there we go. There's some crocs just up the stream there. In Gremlin, the Mara receives two sort of rainfall periods. A very large rain, which was have you got one, James? I think James might have spotted a crocodile. He'll show us what he's seen in a second. Gremlin, we get a very large rain sort of between May and July, I think. I think it was delayed a little bit this year. And that is the big rains, they call it in the Mara. And then now about sort of September, October is when they get a second smaller rain. But it hasn't come. There was a little bit of rainfall or a drizzling a night before. But we're probably expecting a little bit just to take the dust away. There is a couple enormous crocodiles waiting. One on the left is pretty big. So it's very different to the Sabi Sands in the fact that you get one rainfall period down there and it goes to a very dry season. Whereas the dry seasons here really aren't as harsh. You also don't see a huge increase in the temperatures or decrease in the temperatures. It's pretty standard, as the daylight hours are also pretty standard, being very close to the equator. The sun rises and sets pretty much the same time every day. So you don't get the same summer and winter season that you find down in South Africa. And the summer season we get there because the sun orientates itself, or should I say the earth orientates itself with the sun much more above. You get huge increase in temperatures which cause enormous amounts of sort of friction in the atmosphere, which is what leads to the thunderstorms, or the high pressure cells which lead to the thunderstorms and the summer rainfall that you find down there. Whereas up here, a very good soil type, any form of moisture falling regenerates the grass layer. This river is coming from very far away and feeds into Lake Victoria, I believe, and it has got a huge amount of water that comes down all the time. So the catchment is enormous. The Mara's catchment is enormous, hence the fact that it could flow even though there's no rain nearby. The rain can be happening much, much further away. So here we are at the moist and flowing Mara River. We found you the crocodile, got some hippopotamuses. No one crossing yet at the moment, but maybe we'll be lucky. Anyway, we're going to move on to a couple of these down the road and let's see what we can find. But let's go back up to Sydney and see how he's getting on with his tracking.
I have got one of the very, very tiny little insect here. You can see it's walking. This is the termite. You can see that the termites don't really rely on the pheromones in order for looking for others. You can see it's alone now. I'm sure he's doing some food scouting. So the termites, when they are walking like this, they can be able to capture some of the photographs. And when they are disorientated from the trail, they can be able to think about what they saw and bring everything in their memory and go back home without following the pheromones. Tiny little insects are very much clever, and these insects are very much clean. They have got some of the brushes here on the wrist, whereby they use those brushes in order to clean their antennae, since their antennae are very, very much sensitive and they must have to be cleaned all the time. Insects such as the ants, they do employ some of the ants which are called nurses. And these nurses are the ones who are responsible to birth the eggs when they are having eggs. And when the little ones are hatching from the eggs, the nurses comes there and attend to the little ones and take them to the nursery area where they are going to straighten them and they are going to wash them. They will bath them every day. So you can see these insects, they just think like we do. They've got all the people who are responsible in order to look after their little ones. Amazing. So we are still following on Thandi. I hope we will find something interesting here. Still, I cannot give up now. I want to see if Kalamba is in the area. I am not too sure if there is an apex predator by the insect, but I will have to investigate that for you. Karen, that is true. The small world of the insects is amazing because they think more than we do. I can promise you, collectively, these insects, on a caste system, they think more than we do. So maybe Hebi has got some news here because it's just in front of me. I can see he is stopped there. Let me hear what he is having at the moment. Are you winning, Hebi? Okay, Hebi is promising that there is no evidence that they are in this area. But so far, let's check here. Oh, we managed to get Kalamba tracks. Here it's nice and clear, yes. Thank you very, very much for all the efforts. Here is another one you can see, nice and clear. So now we are sure that Thandi and Kalamba, they are together in the area. So all we've got to do now is to find them. So let's hope they've got a kill. So now, while we're going to look for Thandi and Kalamba, let's go back to Hosanna, who is just lying down on the ground.
Yes, Hosanna has decided that's it for the morning. He is going to try and have a little bit of a snooze and a sleep on top of his comfy termite mound. And it has decided that that is him for the day. And I suppose why not? He's had a busy morning already. Been lots going on between him and Tingana and hyenas. It's kind of been a busy day. And he's had to growl and hiss and do a little bit of work. And so I suppose he's earned his nice rest. And who knows what happened during the night. It would have been amazing to have watched kind of how it played out with Mfwakazi being here and Tingana arriving and what happened with Hosanna, but I would imagine it must have been a bit of panic between all these leopards at one point as everybody kind of tried to come together and sort of chase each other around. So I'd imagine quite a lot kind of took place during the course of the night, and like I said, it would have been quite interesting to have been here to see what kind of actually played out. But you can see it's starting to clear up a little bit, which is good. it's starting to get a little bit blue sky. Now, Carly, you say a caption for our two-shot is generations. Well, yes, I suppose that is probably one of the most accurate descriptions for it, given that we've got the two boys. I like that. So it's a nice kind of caption for a picture, especially. So, Caro, you say, bring your son to work day Juma style. Yes, or Father Son's Day would also be another way to put it. And I think that's quite cool as well. I like that. But it's amazing. Either way, the fact that we've had the two of them is unbelievable. And Safari Sally, you say family tree. Well, that's also I quite like that, because you obviously have the family element and also Tingana up in the tree, which is very nice. So really epic to kind of have the two of them together the way that we have. And you can see Tingana is kind of straddling that branch at the moment, trying to find a comfortable spot. It's just like Mfokazi. Neither of them have managed to find any comfort in this horrible tree that they've put this in. And so for now, he's kind of just trying to sort of figure out a way to lie down. But I can say I wouldn't be surprised that Tingana comes down at some point. As soon as the hyenas that are lying right underneath the tree move away, then I wouldn't be surprised he comes down and also tries to find a comfy spot like Hosana has on top of his termite mound. But there's hyenas that are kind of spread out all over the place, but there's the one that's keeping him up in the tree mostly. And I think that might be Corky. It certainly looks around the right size for her when we went past just now. Difficult obviously to say from that, but it looked like it might be her, so I don't think the den will be active at this point. But what's interesting is Herbie is saying to me that I need to come and help them now, because he says that the tracks for Tanya and Tlalamba are very fresh, running away from them, and that he thinks that they're just in front and they keep missing her because of the kind of the movement of them. And I wonder if maybe these hyenas didn't actually steal a kill from those two, because he says there's tracks for both of them there. So what we might do, given the two of these boys are very fast asleep and we've had such a rewarding sighting and there's a few vehicles that do want to come here, I think we might go and give Herbie a hand for the rest of the drive and just see if maybe, just maybe, we can get lucky with Tanya and Tlalamba. And if we don't, we can always come back here towards the end of drive and see what's happened. But I don't think much more is going to take place. I think we got the best of the sighting so far, and as much as it pains me to leave two of my favorite leopards, I do want to catch up with Tanya and Tlalamba and just kind of see what's going on with the two of them and see how Tlalamba is doing and kind of figure out what's been happening. So I think that's what we're going to end up doing. We'll leave these two boys to sleep, and so while we do that, let's send you back to Steve Falconbridge, who I'm sure is having a wonderful time exploring the vastness of the Mara.
Well, let's hope it is indeed Tanya and Tlalamba that someone has found. We are only holding fingers here. Well, here we have got a beautiful herd of elephants slowly moving down towards the water themselves to go and have a drink. And we spotted some vehicles in the distance that are all looking underneath a tree. The elephants came from there, so we're going to go around and have a look. Very good chance that the Magoro Pride is lying up somewhere there. We had a few impala looking a little bit unsettled just before. A couple Thompson's gazelles running around looking a little bit crazy. They do that though, so it's not always a good reliable indicator. Beautiful to see. The female elephants here are very, very big, and their heads, when the elephant we showed you earlier, that first big female with the huge tusks, looked like a male. If it wasn't for the enlarged mammary glands between the front legs, I would have actually thought it was a male. The head is round. It doesn't have the same angular sort of shape that is so characteristic with the big females in South Africa. They just get big here. A little family of them. James's favorite animal. Marcy, the elephants are the same. They are the same. It's just there's a diet change. The elephants here don't have to work as hard for their feeding. You can see there's a female without tusks, and she can survive out here without any problem because there's such an abundance of grass. The tusks up here, oh, she's got two little ones behind her. Is it possible? Could she possibly have had twins, or maybe she's just looking after a little bit of a daycare of one of her siblings? That could be very cool to see. I've never seen twin elephants before. They are the same sort of size. It's possible that the other one belongs to one of the other individuals. So the tusks up here, Marcy, also are very, very clean, generally speaking, because they don't feed on as much sort of tree-like vegetation, so they don't use their tusks as much as elephants down in South Africa do for tearing and ripping at the bark and the trees of plants. They feed almost exclusively on plants, on grass, yeah, when the grass is good, but they do move into the thickets, into the riverine area to feed on the trees. To get away from the herds of wildebeest when they arrive, because it's very loud and very noisy and very distracting for them. You can just see a vehicle in the background. That is where we're going to head off to in a moment, as we just watch this beautiful scene unfold in front of us. Siddharth, you say that myself in the Mara is cool. Well, I'm enjoying being here. It is a nice little shift and change. I must admit, though, I was having the best game viewing of my life before I left. So a little bit disappointed to have left Juma at the peak at which it's at. September is generally the best month in South Africa to view game, due to the fact it's so dry. As you can see, it's still very dry down there. The tracking is great. The trees have got no leaves, and well, the predators are in abundance. But you know, I'm up in the Mara. That's another new experience for me. I'm going to get to spend a lot of time here this time around, and I think we are going to have a wonderful time. The birding is going to be sensational. We are going to see a crossing or two at some stage. No doubt we will find the sausage tree pride, which I'm keen to see. I saw the olololos last time. I haven't seen the Winos before. And the marsh pride I think I have seen before, but the hyena clan, the happy zebra, and the north clan, I haven't met them yet, so that's going to be quite interesting. Look at that female on the left there. Enormous tusks, and see the head is quite round. You know, that's kind of the characteristics you find in male elephants back down in Juma. The females are very angular. That head is a very sharp angle. You see, it is a bit of an angle, but it's not that angular. You know, anyway, maybe I just need to spend more time with them up here, but there's definitely a slight difference, and that might have a lot to do with diet. It might have a lot to do with diet. Well, it seems like Bushwalk team with Herbie, no doubt, are hot on the tracks of what they think is Thandi and Tlalamba.
We are now heading towards the Buffalo's Hook Dam, where the tracks of both Thandi and Tlalamba are heading at the moment. So we just want to try by all means to get there as soon as possible so that we can find them still drinking, as the tracks are convincing. They are looking very, very fresh. And it's nice and clear at the moment. We can see them from far, and they can also spot us from far. So I can see that here is much more open due to the dry season. So we're not far away from the Buffalo's Hook Dam at the moment. I hope they have got something fascinating them in the area. They must not travel far. We want to see them. Thank you very, very much for all the well wishes and all the comments about our trekking on Thandi and Tlalamba this morning. So we are going very, very fast. So now let's go back to Steve, who still got his 2 elephants.
Good luck, Sydney. Take it easy there. I wish you all the best in finding her or them. Here we still have that big female without the tusks. She's moving with these 2 very young elephants. They're probably about a year and a half now, maybe 2 years. Still very new. See them, they were quite close with the adult. A year and a half. Well, there we go. It's trying to eat. Hasn't quite figured out how to grab the vegetation yet with its trunk. So it just there we go. That's how you do it. If you can't use the trunk, just pick it up with your mouth. So we've positioned in such a nice spot here. There's a good chance that these elephants are going to walk right past our car. We're very blessed to be able to do this. We know where they're headed. They're probably going to go down and drink soon. It's kind of a general direction that they're going. And here come the little youngsters. Mrs. Nightingale, the babies will probably grow tusks soon, but it is a genetic trait, definitely. A female that has no tusks does pass that on to her youngsters, but if she's mated with an adult male who has big tusks, well, then that gene can be quite strong. Generally, the tusk gene it's quite a small percentage of elephants. You see it in certain populations due to poaching, due to selective nature that poaching or ivory hunting was back in the day. So you do see that the tuskless gene it was quite prominent in the Addo Elephant National Park elephants, and that was because the individual who was were a problem towards agriculture was only paid for tusks, so he completely ignored or left the elephants alone that had no tusks. So they bred, and that trait became quite a dominant gene. So yes, it's possible that an adult without tusks can pass that on to her youngster, but if, as I said, the male who was the dad has got a strong tusk gene, well, then that would probably come through. You don't see it very often in natural environments. Tuskless individuals, they do for the most part struggle a bit more. Oh, here we go, James. We've got a little feisty one on our right. Hello, young one, come on. This is exactly what James and I have been hoping for. A feisty little elephant that's going to come and show us how big and strong it is. You see, it's doing all of the signs. The head is up, the tail is up. It's fearsome. Here it comes. I just love it. This is one of the best things to ever experience. Young elephants that are trying to scare us off. It's exactly the display and the behavior I was talking about earlier. And Mum's going to come over and say, come on, little one, leave those people alone. They're minding their own business. And then she catches up again. Oh, very, very special. Very special. So that behavior you saw, when we saw that elephant earlier that was responding a little bit to the balloon, they definitely had that same tail and head up. Tina, you want to know about elephants nursing others that aren't theirs? Generally, it doesn't happen. Generally, a mother will only nurse her youngster. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's not something I've really experienced. They have a youngster. The youngster of their own is quite demanding. They can't really afford to give milk for their own, or for siblings, or for cousins or nephews. But I'm not saying it's not possible. And once again, I'm sorry I'm not facing that direction. I'm not saying it's not possible, but generally the elephants will look after their own babies, and then maybe if a parent dies, they'll definitely take on the orphan. But elephants are quite intelligent like that. But generally only have enough milk for their one little youngster. So here come the rest of the herd coming down this beautiful game path, this hippo path. There's a nice easy way down to the water's edge. And there you can see that female that's coming down with really nice tusks that are turning over each other. And the wagging tail, very calm, very relaxed. You can almost see how excited they start getting. Sort of the momentum of coming down the hill. Trunk always on the ground, always having a little sniff for what's going on around them. Just the gentlest of little signs there that a lot of guides in the beginning don't understand. A trunk that's on the ground like that. When you see an elephant and they just stop, and you see the one on the left, how it's just turning its trunk like that. Sometimes that's the only sign that you see, and you must just be aware that that is showing that the elephant is being very, very sort of aware of what's going on. Well, it seems like Tristan has managed to find something special. Let's go and see what.
Yes, very special indeed. We have three creatures of the bush that are walking around and doing their thing. We have a Shangaan and a Venda and a Frenchman all together. Now, that's not a combination that you would often say that would be together out in the bush, but yes, there they are. Look at them go. They are doing what is known as tracking. So they are trying to find Thandi and Kalambo. So we've tried to come and give them a hand. Herbie reckons these tracks are very, very fresh, and they've come towards this area. And so I'm trying to just see if maybe, just maybe, they came back up onto the dam wall and crossed. There was an impala and a waterbuck in this section. You can see how the Frenchman gets steadied when wanting to shoot on his camera. Look at that. Wide-legged, almost like a tripod, steady as anything could be. Really very, very firm and well-planted feet. It's important to have that technique when being a cameraman. One wants to make sure that they have good technique and good tripod legs when they are shooting and trying to keep us nice and steady. So there we go. No, I'm just kidding, of course. But you can see the boys are hard at work. This is the bushwalk team doing the very best they can in order to find the elusive Thandi, who, as we know, can be a little bit tricky at times, and so they're doing their very, very best. And I think she must have obviously come down to the dam and maybe had a drink and is now moved off, and so we're going to have to try and see which way she's gone. I'm going to try to see if I can give them a hand. We're going to go check along the dam wall and around and towards the fire break side, because she might be between the dam and the fire break in that area. Right, now I believe the bushwalk wants a response in terms of what they found, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be staring at us.
So I just found tracks coming to the Buffelshoek Dam here, and I'm trying by all means in order to find the direction of the animal after drinking. That is what we are trying to establish at the moment. You can see we are going up and down here because the area has got quite a lot of tracks. This dam is attracting quite a lot of animals here. So we are now checking all the edges just to see where these tracks left the dam. So we are following on these tracks. Yes, this is where they left the dam from this side going towards that side. So we are now heading towards the southern side of the reserve. And then see, that is true. The water is becoming very, very low at the moment. So a lot of animals are here. Today, I'm very surprised because the hippopotamus are not here, but mostly hippopotamus, they are here. There's 2 hippopotamus which prefers to come to the Buffelshoek Dam. So we are still making sure that these tracks are indeed heading towards the southern side. So we are going back to the road now and see if we can see the tracks from the road outside the dam. So these animals are not very far away from where we are. We have just missed them. We are just missing each other here. So now, let's go back to Steve, who is still with the elephants.
We have, thanks Sydney. Good luck once again finding them. We've just come around to where we saw those vehicles. They've moved off. There's a bit of a thicket on this side with some rocks. We were thinking that they maybe stopped to have a look at a lion or something in there. Nothing here. Maybe whatever it is moved off back up the hill. Don't see anything. Keeping our eyes open. No, nothing here. Well, it was worth a little bit of a look. May have been a leopard that the guys saw for a brief period and then moved off. We didn't manage to catch up with any of those vehicles. They were gone. We were enjoying our elephant sighting too much, but that's okay. We just found our own animals this morning. we're kind of heading around towards the hill, the other side, where a small little place here called Serena, one of the hubs of the Masai Mara. Actually, one of the landing strips that I landed at yesterday. Very good. Well, it doesn't seem to be anything there, but these sort of thickets that you can see in front of us here are really, really good areas for your cats, your predators, to lie up and ambush and wait. And there's not too many of them around, so probably some of the best habitat available for leopards within these areas, sort of these mountainous areas with lots of vegetation. Very easy to disappear, as we see down in the sands all the time. How the cats can just disappear. Romit, night critters. Well, I mentioned the hyena before. I'm really looking forward to seeing really big, epic encounters between lion and hyena. That is what I'm really looking for. Stuff that we only see on TV. Things that hopefully we're going to be putting on TV for you at some stage. But I'm not sure exactly what else of excitement there would be out here at night that I'm really looking forward to seeing. James, what have you been seeing at night that's awesome? Yes. See, hyenas, lions. I don't know what else there might be out here really. Maybe the viewers out there can tell us what they think or what they would really like to see from a night critter point of view. Good morning, good morning. What it is out here that they might be wanting to see. I can't think off the top of my head actually, Romit, actually. I can't think. I mean, obviously a leopard would be nice. I saw 2 leopards last time I was here in my very brief period. That was very special. One was at night and one was early in the morning with Jamie Patterson. Frightened off some hummerkops. So we can finally show you some of the first zebra from our stint here in the Mara, just off to our left. I saw enormous numbers of them from the air yesterday, and they are still apparently in quite large numbers here in Djuma. Djuma, I'm so used to saying Djuma. In the Mara. There they are, enjoying a little bit of the early morning sunshine. Was he chewing still on the grasses that they can find? We're hoping for the animals to be showing us where the predators are. As I said, the Makoro Pride and a Scarface and the like are in and around this area. So maybe we'll be lucky. I haven't seen Scarface before. He is quite a popular character. Plenty of time. No rush, no point seeing it all on the first day. Chris, you'd like to see a porcupine. Well, I'd like to find you a porcupine. I'm sure they do occur here, but I'm not sure to what extent they roam the open plains, as it were. I'm sure they would, like the leopard, spend a lot of their time on sort of the wooded hillsides where the bark of the trees will provide them with the nourishment that they require. Indigo girl, you would like to see a caracal. Well, a caracal would be something I would love to show you. They are invariably known as crepuscular animals, so active at dusk and dawn, not necessarily active at night. But who knows what happens out here. I have not spent an all-nighter out in the Masai Mara before, and I'm sure there are going to be some surprises. And a couple of topi there, doing their thing. Giraffe girl, of course. The North Clan is a bunch of individuals I am really looking forward to meeting, and I am sure there will be an introduction soon. So can you believe this area was once inundated with very tall grass, and now you can see that these animals are standing in pretty much a very open and denuded area as they wag their tails to keep the flies away. Let's go back to Tristan, who is still on the search.
Yes, indeed, Steve. It is crazy to think. I don't actually know if I can fathom the fact that the Mara gets short grass, because the entire time I was there, the grass was ridiculous and very, very long. So it is crazy how those animals are able to shorten everything up and make things sort of get down and lower and less sort of intrusive into being able to see the animals. But we're still searching around for Tanya and Kalamba. I can't get hold of Herbie, so I don't know where the last track was. I'm just driving in a loop around the dam just to see if I can pick up anything, but I gather that the last tracks went towards the dam itself. I can see the guys on the dam wall checking around and having a little look. I saw tracks for hyenas on that dam wall, but no sign of Tandi and Kalamba's tracks, so I'm not sure if maybe they went towards Hyena Road or if they maybe crossed into the drainage line. But either way, they're not at Buffelshoek Dam, and I don't find anything going kind of north towards the fire break, so we'll just have to see. We'll have to try and look around and see what else there is there. So now let's just check here. So now there's Herbie calling me now. Yeah, Herbs, where was the last track? Okay, copy. Do you want me to do Hyena Road? Copy. Now it sounds like Herbie says that the tracks are heading westwards towards Hyena Road, so I'm going to do Hyena Road and hopefully we're going to get lucky. So we're going over the dam wall at the moment, and hopefully we'll be able to find where exactly she went. So you can see they're going off on our left hand side. There they go, on that big game path. Now that big game path pops out on the other side on Hyena Road. I know pretty much where, so I'm going to just shoot around and they can go through the block, and then we can check on the other side and make sure that there isn't any sign of the two of them. There is a drainage line between us and Hyena Road that's I've seen Tandi in before, and she sometimes stops there, but it seems as though she's kind of just moving, and I wonder if maybe she's moving because the guys are tracking them. So we're going to just try and get round and see whether or not that is the case. There's lots of tracks for hyenas around here. Hyenas were busy last night. They were all over the place. I wonder, like I say, if they weren't involved with stealing a kill. Michelle, fingers crossed. Yes, it would be nice to catch up with Tandi and Kalamba. I believe it's been a while since we've seen either, well, we obviously saw Tandi this week, but it's been a while since we've seen them together, or Kalamba by herself, and so it'd be nice to kind of get the two of them walking around together. But Herbie's convinced that the tracks are of the both of them, and Herbie's generally right with these kind of things, and so hopefully we will be able to find. Now I'm trying to get around quickly because the distance between Buffelshoek Dam and Hyena Road is actually much smaller than you think. It looks like it's quite far on a map, but if you do a straight line, it kind of cuts through very, very quickly, and Hyena Road almost runs back at Buffelshoek Dam from where we are. So even though we drive a long way kind of westwards first, it actually starts to tail back slightly to the southeast. There's some wildebeest. Hello, wildebeest. Yes, the migration of Juma. On our right hand side, they are moving northwards. Hello, wildebeest. Yes, looking good, all of you. Happy and healthy? Yes, okay, good. Let's carry on. We're going to keep going because I want to just try and get around, because if they cross this next road, if they cross Hyena Road without us seeing them, chances of finding them become infinitely less, because they go into a monstrous block that is between Gari Cutline, Hyena Road and Central, and that block is very difficult to negotiate. It's not an easy place to drive, let alone track, and so it makes life very tricky if you try and get there. So I'm going to try and just get onto this road and see if we can maybe cut Tanya and Kalamba off before they cross over. That's of course if they haven't already crossed. They might have, but we need to just pay attention as we go now, in case the trucks come up and they pop out. So just going to have a very good look as we go. Right, now I'm bumbling about here in the Sabi Sands trying to find Tanya and Kalamba. Sounds like Steve is bumbling in the Mara, and I wonder what he's looking for the rest of the morning.
It's gone. We are bumbling. We just spotted a bird, but of course the bird did not stay. We're just looking down. That's quite amazing if you look down into the valley there. And all this grass that is up here. There's a little bit more grass here than there was further down. There's the the hill line to the right of Serena, where you can see the trees. So the rocks protecting those trees against the ravages of fire that would come through a valley like this. Here's Serena just on the other side. This is one of the camps that you could stay at in the Masai Mara. It's got its own airstrip, restaurant, accommodation, all that sort of thing. Quite nice, actually. Swimming pool, if you're into that sort of thing. You can just hear the drone of the aeroplane in the distance as it's taking off. We're not far from the airstrip now. But if we come back to this open sort of area here, James, and look down into the valley, you can actually see the snaking Mara River that moves through and around, and it's characterized by that broad band of trees. You can see it there, sort of in the middle of the picture. And it goes off to the left and then bands around all the way around to the right there, keeps on going. And directly across there is the Ololola Range, and our camp is somewhere there on the right, just to sort of the right of that high bulge, somewhere around there if I'm not mistaken. But the Mara River, you can see the tree line that moves all the way from right all the way to the left, and there at the back it goes all the way again to left. A very long stretch of river, in fact. I must just try and remember the maths here. I did write all of this down a while ago. I need to try and remember. I found a point that I was trying to talk about. And let me just find the length of the Mara River. I think it's about 180 miles. Hang on, I do have it. Yeah, it's 115 miles long. Large game reserve, the Masai Mara, going all the way down to Lake Victoria, which is the mouth where it enters into Lake Victoria. So I wanted to talk about the sort of the biomass that gets produced here. I knew I'd written this down, and they reckon that there's about 2 pounds of edible grass every month. So every square yard, about 2 pounds. So that's 2,850 tons per square mile. So that is an enormous amount of vegetation that is grown here, and that is all the reason why the animals migrate in here. There's an enormous amount of food. The wildebeest do the breeding in the Serengeti before coming up here for an enormous amount of grass. That is all to do with the fact that the soil is very nutrient rich and very, very healthy. So anyway, let's go over to Sydney, who's standing on a hotspot.
You can see now that I am battling to climb this termite mound. This one, I need a step ladder. This is very, very high. And I like the strategy employed by these termites, because instead of cutting the trees and everything before they build, they save nature. They build around it, and they don't mind having the trees in their termite mounds. So the soldier termites, who are responsible to defend these colonies. Some of these termite mounds, they've got the major soldiers, and some they've got both major soldiers and the minor soldiers. The major soldiers are the big termites with the big mandibles like this, the ones that are responsible for the serious fights. Then the minor termites, those ones, because they are very small and they can go fast, they are given light responsibilities. Majors, they are responsible for the heavy duties, whereas the minors are responsible in order to check. I think I'm just getting a call from Herbert now. Saying we must have to quickly go and check that other area. So the minor soldiers are the ones who are responsible to control the traffic in between the tunnels in there. And these are the ones who gives instruction to workers very quickly to say, detour this tunnel now because someone is coming, and they can easily do that. So now it seems like there is fresh evidence on something here, as Herbert is calling me to concentrate much more on this side. I got hooked by the thorn tree. Oh, I got hooked by these stones. Look at this. These stones can be very, very dangerous. So, but I'm not hurt. So, yeah, so this kind of trees, they are really hooking us. So we want to see what Herbert is seeing here. It's right here in front of me at the moment. Maybe he is seeing. It's a hippopotamus. It's a hippopotamus. You can see we've got a dangerous animal sighting. There's a hippopotamus with a calf, or maybe it's a male and a female, but the one standing is a female. I can see that. So we can quickly leave the area. They are so very nice and close, and we don't want to disturb them. This is one of the rare sightings. Seeing a hippopotamus on a guided walk is very, very rare. And they are very much static. So now let's go back to Steve, who is looking for something.
We are. Good luck there. Be safe. Be safe, Sydney. And got a very characteristic shot of a topee sitting or standing on top of a raised little termite mound, making himself look very big and very strong, hoping to maybe entice a few ladies into his little area. So the Mara area, just to maybe explain a little bit more on the biomass. I mean, we talk about biomass, and biomass is not only for eating, but for fire, as we spoke about before. And due to the rainfall that we get here in the soil, I mean, I don't know if you all really understand what 2,850 tons per square mile per month is. It's an enormous amount of vegetation. I mean, it's 2 pounds per square yard. So if you don't know what a yard, it's about a meter. So meter by a meter, 2 pounds every single month is produced of grass, is produced on that patch. And if you look in the distance, it goes on and on and on and on. We've got many, many, many square miles of the Masai Mara. I'm trying to find a figure to find out exactly how big the what do I call it, the Mara Triangle is itself, and I can't find that quite yet, but I will find it for you. But the soil type, all of it is inundated with very nice volcanic soil. There's basalts all over the place, which have eroded or weathered down to form very nutrient-rich, clay-rich soils. And then from the volcanic flows and volcanoes that happened many, many years ago, an enormous amount of ash landed all over the place, and it's highly, highly nutritious. And the clay itself also has a very high water holding capacity, hence the reason why, well, I'm the only presenter so far, and I've just jinxed myself to not get stuck. Even Brent became part of the Marshmallow Club. He finally admitted it. It probably happened more than once, but he finally admitted to getting stuck. But hopefully it's not going to happen to me this time. But I do have Big James on the back. He'll just pick the car up and move it out, as I saw him do with David. James, you did pick it up that time, didn't you? Yeah. We saw David stuck, and we see it on one of the other monitors on when we were in final control. You can see the one vehicle's looking at David's vehicle, and or I think it was David's vehicle, and then David was trying, and someone else was trying, then Scary was trying, and then James came around, and it just moved. We didn't move before though, it moved afterwards. Beautiful, so special to be out here. As far as the eye can see. Exactly. Emma's saying that's why I've got James as my cam op. Exactly, because, you know, in case we get stuck. Last time I was here, it was with Archie. Archie's also quite a big lad himself. But we drove through some areas, some roads that I just thought, we were not doing any off-road driving then, but on some roads that I just thought there's no way we're going to maintain this. We're going to get stuck. We didn't. Almost a few times, but You know, in a four-wheel drive like this and you get into those muddy roads, you just got to keep going forward. Do not stop. Do not, what should I say, keep going, pass, go, collect your $200. Okay, so now we are officially on the main road to Serena, and I just want to show you exactly what the airstrips look like here in the Mara. These are the small planes that you fly in with, so if you don't have a nice or a very good tummy for air travel, you must think twice about the planes you're going to venture in here with. There's the nice windsock. That is sort of the average sort of plane that we get here. Very, very bush-like. There's not much of a structure here, just a small little roof there for the guests while they're waiting for the planes to arrive. Because as you know, nothing arrives in time out here. It's always a little bit delayed just because of the nature of things. So expect to wait a few moments. And the buffalo, well, you can see if you're waiting by the airstrip, there's absolutely no security from the safety of the wilderness. It is all open and all expansive, and anything could happen to you while waiting for your plane. Well, anyway, let's go back down to South Africa and see what's going on.
So we are still behind Thandi and Kalamba. Thandi and Kalamba nearly led us to a dangerous situation as we were trekking the tracks, and the tracks went past the hippopotamus. They went past very close to where the hippopotamus are resting, and we were just trekking going there. That is how those hippos were spotted by Herbert. Julie, I don't think Kalamba is about that. I think Kalamba is just disappearing as a form of a play, because the cubs, they like to play too much, and some, they don't even know about the dangerous possibilities of meeting the other different species. But as time goes on, she's going to learn, because she is going to be independent as time goes on. So I can see now the tracks are back again here, still heading towards that direction, nice and clear. So this cat has been walking for quite a long distance. So I'm sure that Thandi maybe is trying to move Kalamba away to an area that she's not used to, in order maybe to minimize her walking distance activities. Yeah, Thandi and Kalamba, they are just walking and walking. But the hippopotamus were very much calm, and they did not show any sign of aggression. They were just very relaxed. We saw them, and I'm sure they saw us, because right there where they were, it's not far away from where we turned earlier, and the visibility is there. It's just that they were not threatened about us. Safari, Sally, the hippopotamus can hear. The hearing ability of the hippopotamus is good, and they can see very, very well. So these kind of animals can run very fast. From where they were to where we were, it was a short distance. The hippopotamus, they cannot run faster than the rhinos. Rhinos can go fast up to 40 kilometers per hour. Hippos can go 36 kilometers per hour. So the hippo is much slower and has got very short legs. They don't go far as the rhinos. So now let's go to Tristan, who is also looking for this Thandi and Kalamba. He's trying to assist us in the area.
We are indeed. So we're right next to the guys again on Hyena Road. She's come a lot more northwest than I thought she would. I thought she would have gone a bit more southwest than this. And so I wonder if maybe she didn't bump into that hippo like Herbie and the rest did. Bumped into the hippo and just kind of calculated her route and decided to change up a little bit where she was going. So far I can't see where she's kind of crossed it. So hard in places here that, I mean, if we only will see the tracks if you're on foot. To see a track via a vehicle is going to be almost impossible, which is not ideal because I'm feeling a bit guilty that I'm potentially squashing the tracks for Herbie and Sydney, which is not good. Normally I back myself to see tracks, but parts of this road is not very good at all, which make it a little bit tricky to be able to see them. So I can see the guys are north of us. Now, I just want to double check if they get onto the fire break. Let's have a look here. Might actually be worth getting onto the Buffaloes of Boundary. Yes, Michelle Tandy is another story. She is a bit of a pain. She has certainly given many grey hairs to many of us with trying to find her for long periods of time. She can be really tricky when she wants to be. It's not the easiest cat to find at all, but you never know. There's always a chance with her, and as long as you give it a bit of effort, sometimes you can come up with the goods. Now, I see hyena tracks here. I don't see any sign of Tandy's tracks, but let's see. Hopefully she hasn't gone into this block and decided to walk along here for hours on end. It seems as though that's what it looks like, though. I'm pretty sure she's cut into this area, which is not ideal because it's got this very long drainage line that is really not accessible. So hopefully she's pushed further west of that. Shamson, I don't know. I mean, it's not like the Nkuhuma Pride have really been around that much over the last couple of years. So even in the period when there was very few hyenas around, we didn't see too many, few lions around, we didn't see too many hyenas either. So, you know, I don't think that's the case. I think it's more maybe just to do with there was a bit of a shift in the dynamic, given that Madam was the sort of matriarch, if you want to call it, or the kind of leader of this particular grouping, and she seems to have disappeared, and you know, Scarback and the likes have also seemed to, you know, disappear as well, which means that, and the others are, you know, trying to kind of figure out who's actually in charge of what's going on, and there might have been a little kind of dispute which could have led to why there's these sort of fragmented groups that were off of Djuma. And now that everything's settled down a little bit, now we're starting to see them coming back. It's just a theory. I don't know if it's true in any way. Just kind of theorize that maybe that's the case, but lions would have a part to play. I mean, obviously in 2016 when the lions spent almost all their time here, well, then we would have seen them a lot, you know. Well, the hyenas would have moved off because of the lions being here so much, but the lions really weren't here much last year at all, and we didn't really have that many hyenas kind of milling up during January, February, March, and there was very few lions. So I don't think it's only to do with lions. There's probably a little bit of a change in the hierarchy as well. Still more hyena tracks, snow leopard track. Now that guy says he picked up tracks where we are now, so I want to just see if we can find anything. Anyway, send you quickly across to Herbie and Sydney. Sounds like we're losing reception.
I am still here by the northwestern side of the Buffelshoek Dam, just to see if we are going to be lucky with one of these cats. But the tracks, they are just everywhere here where we are. We're not too sure. We're trying to check. We have also identified another male leopard track. So there are 3 at the moment in this area, and we're not too sure who this male is. So we are going to cross over here now and see by the other side of the road. I can see here that there is some kind of an evidence here. So you can see that here I've got the tracks. They are not looking very clear because they are on the road here. So these cats crossed to this side. You can see we are following the tracks right now. So they went up this side. Yeah, these cats can walk very long distances. We have been following these tracks all the way down from the Cheetah Cat line. Now we are by the northwestern side of the Buffalo's Hook Dam, which is quite a very long distance. So now let's go back to Steve by the Masai Mara and see what he's having.
Thanks very much. I do hope you guys down in the south find Tandi and Tlalamba. We've just stumbled across a dead impala just underneath one of these little croton thickets. As we suggested earlier, perfect habitat for leopard, places where they like to ambush. The leopards are not that relaxed up in the Mara. There are some that are viewable and others that just move off. But by the look of that impala's belly, it is quite enlarged. Don't know if it was killed by a leopard. There doesn't seem to be any feeding to the body itself. We can't really see the throat and the face to be able to tell whether it was strangled or maybe if it just lay down and has died. Maybe it was a female who had complications in giving birth. It's very hard to say. It appears to be a female, but you can't see the face or the neck to be able to tell. But you see how distended the body is. It's because it's dead. It's not able to release any of the gas from the rumination chamber of the tummy. And that gas builds up and builds up, which indicates it's probably been dead for a couple of hours, but very hard to say. Chitty Chatty Meg, it's a very good question. I'm not able to get out and go and have a look. It's only about 30 meters from the car, but we're not really allowed to go walking out here in the Mara, as sad as that might be. It might have been a leopard that killed it, and that just moved off as our vehicle approached, but by the size of the tummy, makes me feel that it's probably died on its own. It's just underneath the bushes there, so out of the watchful eye of the vultures. Who knows? So I'm going to assume it's a natural death, but really anything could be happening out here. There doesn't seem to, as I say, be any feeding on the animal. And natural death does happen. It is a common occurrence out in the Mara, out in the world that is, and over 60% of the animals that die out here actually are completely ignored, or not ignored, but never found by your lions or hyena. Invariably vultures make up a huge, as David was talking about last night, a huge removal of that organic material back into the soil, into the environment. But where this is positioned, even the batelier that were flying over earlier were not able to spot. Generally, they would have spotted something like this quite easily. I've seen many of them flying around this morning. Lauren, the fact that people don't spend as much time with them and we aren't really able to off-road and follow them doing their thing out here in the Mara, they tend to get skittish. Skittish basically means an animal that's not habituated. To be habituated, you need to be able to get accustomed to a vehicle, and if a leopard decides to just disappear into the thicket, well, you won't follow it, so it'll never get used to your presence, so to speak, unless they're around very busy areas or very busy roads, or they're active around the roads, especially during the daytime hours. They'll be very sort of, well, I'm just going to move there, and that's going to be the end of it. You're not going to be able to follow them the way that we do down in South Africa. You're able to follow them and spend time with them, and they get to the point where they don't really care anymore, and then they have babies, and the babies don't care. It's not that they're tame, but here, not a lot of time is spent with the cats, so they don't get to that habituation stage like you find down in South Africa. But just over on the horizon there, you can actually, I don't know if you can quite make out the vultures that are kettling up in the sky. Just got a vehicle that's just coming past us. Kettle of vultures that are just circling in the air. I don't know if you're going to be able to easily see them. There they are. They would be, sorry about the vehicle that just drove through the shot, they would be picking up on the thermals as the daytime is warming up. The vultures are getting some altitude. We saw a few of them moving off in the other direction before, and we were thinking about going and investigating, but you've just got to see what's going on. The heat of the day is finally coming. They'll pick themselves up in the altitude of the sky using the thermals before moving off to another spot, but that's not what I originally saw. If we look down below them on the horizon, there's a really nice big herd of zebra, and are out in the open clearing. Collect down there just on the bottom below the hill there, James, you'll be able to see. There we go, straight in there, quite far off. And you can see a nice large group. There's possibly a few wildebeest in there as well. Very far off. Looks like there's mainly zebra. Shamsing, you want to know if vultures can smell as well. I have proven that vultures can smell. I've found vultures that have found kills completely inaccessible to the eye. They've managed to find it. A lot of people don't think birds are able to really use their noses, their olfactory senses, but vultures surely can, and they're able to smell things. I'm sure they rely primarily on eyesight, but I've found hooded vultures and white-headed vultures in areas where you're like, how did you find this kill? And no doubt it happened to be the smell. Also, when a kill is hiding in a tree somewhere, how vultures sometimes find that. There's no way they could have spotted it with the eye. Oh, was that baboon? I heard some really weird noises coming off to the left. Not quite sure. So yeah, vultures can smell. I think some people don't believe they can, but as I said, we found them in areas where it's impossible for them to have been without having picked up the smell. Well, another vehicle is about to photobomb our camera. We're going to move off before he does so. Okay, and in the meantime, let's go back down to South Africa with the bushwalk and see if they've had any luck.
We are now looking at the drainage which is heading towards the Garagopen area, just to see if maybe Tandy is not hiding Kalamba there at the moment, as here by this area where the tracks are heading to, there's quite a lot of wind. So, and there's a nice green thick bushes where they can easily hide for the afternoon. So there is no sign of these two from the other animals here. No warning call, nothing. It's just very quiet. And the tracks are very fresh. So maybe when we get to Mvubu Road, we might be lucky and see where exactly these animals are resting. Not even an impala here in this area. It's just very, very quiet. It's only Tandy and Kalamba's tracks everywhere. So I don't think they are still moving now because the wind is too much and it has been a very long distance. So now let's go back to Tristan, who is also looking for these two.
We are indeed, and at the moment we've got tracks that are going down the road here, but I'm just trying to figure out if it's both of them or if Tandy's maybe left Kalamba behind at the drainage line or Gari cut line. It looks like it's just for Tandy that's here. difficult to say though, because there's a part here where it's like up and down a little bit, and if you look as we go forward, it's just a myriad of tracks going forward. There's lots and lots and lots of tracks all together. So I'm just trying to see if she maybe was sniffing about here and turning, or if the two of them are still together. It looks like at this stage just the one though. Just want to double check here. Maybe more than one together. And that's, yes, tracks everywhere. It is fantastic, except that it is also a bit of a headache, if I'm honest, because when Thandi walks like this, she can be seriously tricky to actually pin down and actually find. So it's going to be a tough ask to find her. She's still going. It looks like just her by herself at the moment. It doesn't look like there's a second individual here. Also the way that she's walking, she's moving quite quickly, and lots of rubbing on the ground in places. So I just want to double check now into Mvubu if she goes straight west or if she cuts south. The problem is that when you find a single female track like this, it can be a bit tricky, because it could be that it's that skittish female. You never know. Maybe she's decided to move back into this area and walk around again. Obviously could be Thandi, could be Tlalamba moving about. It's always quite tricky. There's some buffalo though, far away. So the buffalo are way in the distance to the north of Tambuti Dam. I wouldn't be surprised that they cross southwards towards Djuma and come down towards Vuyathelapan during the course of the day. So if you're watching on the dam cam, then make sure you pay attention maybe around lunchtime area. I imagine these guys might make their way down by then, so it looks as though that's where they're heading. Or Galagopan is also, I suppose, where they could go, but they look very relaxed. Doesn't look like they've seen too much this morning, and hopefully there's no lions that have been chasing them about. Poor buffalo have had a tricky time of late. Lots and lots of lions in the area, so it makes life a little bit harder for them. Right, let's carry on with these tracks. Macaweezy could be that she's trying to find food. So when she's hungry, she walks like this. Could be that. It could be that she's maybe heard another leopard in the area, wants to come and investigate. Could be a number of different things, but it's pretty typical Thandi kind of movement. She walks fast, she walks far. It's always kind of been like that with her. She's a cat of consistency in many ways, and that she's not shy to do a long sort of walk and to do it as quickly as possible. So, you know, it's very possible she's just looking for food more than anything else. Maybe she was robbed by those hyenas and she's hungry and desperate for food, or she hasn't been in this area for a while, so she's doing a bit of scent marking, making sure she's just checking her area and making sure that everything is good and that she's not kind of having other females sneaking around in this particular section. Now, it doesn't look like she's crossed there. I just find her a bit tricky in this area. She tends to change direction quite fast. She might have gone down this way. Let's have a look quickly down Mvubu and see if maybe she's been walking around here. Yes, so she crossed here. So she's heading towards, by the looks of things, towards Galagopan. So I'm going to just jump onto the little track that goes to the old hyena den, because that's where she's kind of heading. So while I do that, let's send you back across to the bushwalk team and see whether or not they're still on that trail there and potentially might be tracking a different set of leopards.
There's quite a lot of interesting noises you can hear. We have just now came across the Armaged Babblers. Armaged Babblers are one of the very interesting and noisy birds. So sometimes if you don't know them, you might even think maybe there's a snake up in a tree, because birds, when seeing snakes, they get crossed and they mobilize. The Armaged Babblers, reason why they make this too much noise is because if one of the family members calls, the other ones, they get jealous and they imitate that call, which is kind of a behavior called an allelometic behavior. So we are now heading much more towards the Galagopan area, checking the drainage here, because Thandi prefers to hide Kalamba inside the drainage during the daytime. Maybe we might be lucky and see them here in this drainage. So the go-away birds are calling at the moment. Maybe they are just crossed about our presence here as they are calling behind us. So we have been there already. Yeah, Safari Great Mark Tandy is indeed playing some hide and seek. But at least now we are happy because we know where she is and we are sure Tandy is with Kalamba. We are relieved. And that is what I was looking for this morning. I wanted to make sure that I see if these two are still together. Not easy to walk down here. So I wonder how the elephants are making it going down here, because I can see their droppings here by the drainage line. So now let's go back to Tristan and hear if maybe he's winning on his side.
Well, at the moment, Sydney not winning just yet. So the tracks go down into this drainage line that's running along kind of parallel to where I am. I'm at the old hyena den now, just trying to see if she came out here. But it seems as though she must have gone into the drainage. And then there's a path that runs kind of parallel with us that goes down where we had her with Tingana and Kalamba a few weeks ago or months now. And so it seems like that's where she's kind of heading. So I'm going to have to go all the way around to Gallagher Pan and just go and check she hasn't come out that side. I think she's possibly might have headed that way. It's obviously difficult. If it's with Kalamba, it would have been much easier because we would have been able to see exactly where she went. But it seems like she's on her own. So she's not going to be walking, I don't think, for water. I'm sure she's looking for food, which means she'll be hunting in these blocks and thickets, and that's going to make life a little bit more tricky. But maybe, just maybe, after walking as far as she has from Buffelshoek Dam, she'll stop in for a little bit of fresh water at Gallagher Pan and we'll get lucky and be able to find her there. If she hasn't come out there, then we know that she must still be in this block somewhere and that she might be lying down somewhere in this drainage line, which would be then a job for this afternoon, because we'd have to spend a bit of time walking around there and see if we can maybe find her. So that would probably be what would need to be done. If she is hunting though during the course of today, if she's not successful, I wouldn't be surprised she returns to Kalamba during this afternoon or during the course of the morning. Given that it's overcast, cloudy conditions, it's okay for her to pretty much walk the whole day today. She wouldn't have to worry too much. So pretty sure we'll pick her up at some point. We just got to concentrate and throw the good vibes out there, and hopefully she'll pop up somewhere along the way. Nothing on that termite bound. There's also a very relaxed group of impalas here, so I don't think she's passed this area sort of recently. I think she's cut into that drainage and maybe bypassed those impalas, and they don't even know that there's a leopard around. That's what my guess would be. Also, the tracks to me are a little bit windswept in places, so I don't think that they are maybe as fresh as what Herbie and Sydney are following, because they say theirs are very fresh. These are not bad, but they a little bit of wind in places. I suppose it is a gusty morning, so that could be from the last sort of hour or so that they've picked up a little bit of that soil on top. But we'll just keep going around to Gallagher Pan. There looks like lots of impalas at the pan themselves, but you know, it doesn't matter there. I just want to check slightly around that area. Maybe we'll get lucky with some tracks coming out and through, and maybe then we'll kind of pick up where she's actually walked. What are these now? These are for... These look like hyena tracks that have come this way. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for a leopard track. Oh, Tandy, Tandy, Tandy. Right, so we're still looking, we're still going to try find what's going on. In the meantime though, back to the bushwalk team, see if they've had any more luck than I have, and maybe they're onto something.
No luck at the moment. I am still here inside the drainage line, and I hear that the tracks for Tandy and Kalamba, I think Tandy specifically, has just been spotted ahead of us, heading much more towards the Garagopen area. So let's hope there is a sighting there anytime soon. Here by the drainage line, we might be lucky maybe with Tlalamba, as if now they can only see one track. It means it's Thandi heading there with Tlalamba hiding behind. And this is quite a lovely place here by the drainage line. There is enough available cover for these animals. We are still down here, just trying our last luck of the day. Oh, there's... Oh, yes, Corolla. I just saw now one of the very, very interesting small dove, but just got disappeared there. So I'm sure you didn't see it. You can see there's a nice den here. Oh, it's a nice hole. I'm not sure which thing there, but this looks very active. You can see that the dust and the color of the soil there is different from the surrounding. That is an active hole. And the positioning of that hole, I think, is perfect, because not animals can easily get hold of those animals there. I'm not too sure who is staying there, but maybe it's the warthogs. So warthogs is one of those animals who prefers to use these artifact holes, the old artifact holes. That's quite a very big house, and it's dark in there. So now let's go back to Tristan. I will see you maybe this afternoon.
Well, yes, hopefully, Sydney, it'll be a bit of a problem if we don't see you this afternoon, because it means something bad will have happened to you during the course of the day, which is not what we want at all. So we'll hopefully see Sydney a little bit later. Now, we're still kind of looking around at lots of impalas at Gallego Pan that are very chilled. No sign of any tracks popping out, so she, I think, is still in the drainage line behind me at the moment, and that means that we, in all likelihood, are not going to be able to find her in the course of this morning. It's going to require a lot more effort to kind of get in that drainage line and walk around there, and if she's still moving, then catching up with her is going to be quite tricky, but you never know. Let's just head slowly towards Gallego's shortcut, but I don't think we're going to get much. You can see lots of impalas in front of me at the pan. Be careful, impalas. There's a lurking leopard somewhere here. We don't know where either. Yes, talking to all of you. They've just finished their morning drink and have decided that they are going to now go and do a bit of grazing, but lots and lots of them all over the place. Anyway, it is that time of the day though where we are going to be starting to head home. This afternoon we will try and see if we can find the elusive Thandi, but we do have the Hosan and Tingana sighting, so that'll be quite nice to follow up on this afternoon and see how that plays out and finishes up, but hopefully we'll get them and Thandi and Tlalamba. So lots of promise this afternoon. There'll be also lots of promise from the Mara too, but from all of us that have been out this morning, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. We'll see you all this afternoon for our Sunset Safari Lives.